Okay, well, good evening, folks, and thanks so much for joining us tonight for the first game of the 2019 annual year for the Macon Mayhem. It is game number 26 here of the 2018-19 season, a season that's been very, very friendly so far to the Mayhem, who sit firmly at the top of the SPHL standings. Right now, however, their first place spot is contended by the Peoria Rivermen. But tonight, folks, the focus is all on the opponents in the building and on hand, the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs, a team that the Mayhem have had a really interesting season series with so far. They've played them 6 times already, and after tomorrow it will be 8 times. The Rail Yard Dogs can completely level out the season series to 4 wins apiece. As of right now, the Mayhem lead that department 4-2. They won the first 4 matchups, but Roanoke has rolled back and won the last 2. Lots of similarities between these two teams as we get set for the first game of 2019. But first, let's take a look at what happened last Saturday. The Mayhem right now, actually in the midst of their longest winless streak of the season, which doesn't really seem like they've been struggling too much. All their games last week were close. They were all on the road. They were tough matchups against pretty tough teams, but they just couldn't come away with a win. They got a point in their 3 road matchups, but a point out of a possible 6 will never be good enough, certainly not for the Mayhem. So Leo Thomas talked about it a little bit. Unfortunately, he didn't get the chance to catch up with him before this game, so we won't hear from the Mayhem head coach in this broadcast. But one thing I will tell you that he did say is that the Mayhem have got to compete a little bit harder than they have been, and it's going to be paramount, especially against a tough Roanoke squad that has beaten the Mayhem in each of their previous 2 matchups. But getting back to last Saturday, the Mayhem fell behind by 2 goals in the first 6 minutes of play in that tilt against the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs on December 29th. Ian Silva stopped just 3 of the first 5 shots he faced, and really, folks, that was the only time all season where we've really seen Ian Silva struggle. He's been outstanding since joining the Mayhem. Last Saturday night was just not his night, and he was pulled for Henry Dill in the first 6 minutes of the game, and Dill came in relief and only faced 11 shots. He stopped 10 of them. So you got to credit the Mayhem for holding Roanoke to just 16 shots on goal, which is incredible. It's the lowest shot total any team has put on the Mayhem all season. And as a matter of fact, it's the lowest amount of shots the Mayhem have allowed in a game in franchise history. So that's one positive that can be taken from it. The last time the Mayhem allowed anywhere near that was in the challenge round against the Evansville Thunderbolts last year, in which the Mayhem allowed only 17 shots on goal by the Thunderbolts, and it was a game the Mayhem actually lost 2-1. So oddly enough, when the Mayhem give up very few shots on goal, they tend to not get the result you would think that they would. And last Saturday was kind of an example of that. The Mayhem fell into an early hole, played from behind virtually the entire night, and though they could not overcome that deficit completely, they did chip away at it piece by piece. The Mayhem erased 2-goal deficits twice. Well, cut them in half, I should say, not erased. But something needs to be said about that, and the Mayhem did not give up all the way to the final buzzer and were right in that game all the way till the end. Roanoke's victory over Macon lifted them back up to an even 500 record. They have the same winning percentage now at home as they do on the road. Oddly enough, Roanoke 7-7 at home, 5-5 on the road. And the last time they were in this building back on December 8th, they got the victory against Macon to close out that series on Star Wars night. But the Dogs overall have just had this head-to-head season series shifting in their favor of late, and are hoping that after this weekend it will be completely level at 4 victories per piece. Both of tonight's teams have endured lots of ECHL call-ups recently, and in the past week alone, both the Mayhem and the Rail Yard Dogs have lost 2 of their players, one a forward, one a defenseman for each side. Macon's Sam Wilbur leaving for the Tulsa Oilers, the St. Louis Blues affiliate, and then Zach Urban heading to the Detroit Red Wings farm team, the Toledo Walleye. And so did Roanoke's Sean Federow, defenseman for the Rail Yard Dogs, who's played pretty solid hockey so far this season. He's a piece that's going to be missed dearly. by Dan Bremner, Michael Harris and company over on the Roanoke bench tonight. And just yesterday, Dylan Fox was called up to the Maine Mariners. He had the game winner against the Mayhem on Star Wars night back on December 8th. So the Mayhem will be content to not see Dylan Fox part of the Rail Yard Dogs roster tonight. He is also somebody that the Mayhem are particularly unfond of due to the injury with Dakota Kletcha. Of course, it was not Fox's fault what happened, but he was the person who ended up hitting Kletcha, and Kletcha lost an edge a little bit awkwardly, and the wrist. But that's not something you can blame on the person, of course. It's just the nature of hockey. It's the sport. Stuff like that happens. But even still, you can, sometimes you just can't help but hold a grudge after something like that happens. So Fox is gone from Roanoke, and at least for now, he's up in Maine with the Mariners. And Roanoke tonight will be rolling with just 9 forwards and 5 defensemen. They've also got a couple of key pieces injured. Brian Rowland, who's played very well against the Mayhem this season, the defenseman who has scored 2 of his 3 goals this season against Macon. 2 of his 4 goals this season have come against Macon, and he's not going to be available. Neither is leading scorer Max Guyon, who just returned from injury not long ago, and now he's back on the IR. So, the Mayhem have seen and have suffered through all these ECHL call-ups and injuries, folks, but Roanoke has done the same. It's not been unique to just Macon. Both sides will be quite shorthanded heading into this game. And with spots needing to be filled, Leo Thomas took the initiative to call upon Michael Bunn from the Carolina Thunderbirds of the Federal Hockey League. Bunn has been a point-per-game player. We'll hear from him in the first intermission of tonight's game. I had a chance of catching up with him. I understand some members of his family are tuned into tonight's game. We're glad you decided to join us, to the Bunn family, and I'm sure you'll look forward to hearing from Michael in the first intermission of tonight's game, as well as, of course, watching him play with some of his former teammates down in Carolina, now on the Mayhem, including former Rail Yard Dogs defenseman Taylor Love, as well as goaltender Henry Dill, who the jury's still out as to whether we'll see him or not, or Silvis tonight. But Bunn in Carolina has played 70 games there. He scored 69 points, 32 goals, 37 assists. He was on a 5-game point streak when he left. This season, he ranked 5th on the team in scoring with 20 points in 22 games. He's a pretty skilled forward, a natural goal scorer, but when he was in Carolina, he had no choice but to play defense for the majority of the season because the team lost its top defenseman and then lost Taylor Love to the Mayhem. So he had to switch back to D. Tonight, he will be at forward for Macon. And Michael Bond will be wearing the number 11 tonight for the Mayhem. And we're really looking forward to seeing what Bunn can do, the Wake Forest, North Carolina native. So tonight is the Mayhem's first game of 2019, like we said, and it will be the first game of a home-and-home series with the Rail Yard Dogs. The Mayhem are excited to welcome all students and faculty back from their holiday breaks with back-to-school night presented by Kinetics Health Club. And Friday next weekend, the Mayhem will be hosting the third place now Birmingham Bulls on video game/arcade night presented by the Creek FM and Reboot. Fans can enjoy an arcade ambiance here at the Macon Centreplex with video games delivered by Reboot. Over on Cherry Street in the lobby of the Centreplex. Everyone's favorite classic video games will be here in the Centreplex lobby. Lots to look forward to here for the Mayhem in the new year. They're hoping they can start out the new year well against the team that ended the old year poorly, the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs. They're in the house tonight, and they are 12-12-0, have now sunk to 6th place in the SPHL. Just 3 points, however, behind the Knoxville Ice Bears, still contending for middle ground in the SPHL standings. They can draw to within 1 point tonight of Knoxville with a win. The Mayhem can secure sole possession of first place. The Peoria Rivermen right now have 2 games in hand. Birmingham with 1 game in hand, though they're behind Macon by 1 point in the standings. None of the 3 top teams in the league did very well last week. Everyone struggled. Peoria struggled in Huntsville. Birmingham struggled in Pensacola. And the Mayhem struggled in Knoxville and Fayetteville and ultimately in Roanoke. So it hasn't been smooth sailing for the three big dogs like it had been for the most part earlier this season. They've hit some roadblocks, as is expected, and the argument can be made that because of all these ECHL call-ups, it's leveling the odds a little bit, and we're seeing more and more teams just get picked apart by injury and by call-ups, and it's that time of the year. And all week, folks, I spoke with broadcasters and media directors in the ECHL. Because of all these call-ups, I had to write a story about it for the Mayhem, and we'll get into some detail on how the Mayhem players are doing up in the ECHL throughout this broadcast and beyond that. But right now, the Mayhem have 7 players that they started their opening night roster with that are no longer here because they were playing so well that they caught the attention of coaches at the affiliate level. Now, Sam Wilbur was the most recent one to go. He was the first forward. Before him, it was all defensive specialists, i.e. goaltenders and defensemen. Jordan Ruby, Gordon Dayfield, Andrew D'Agostini, the 3 netminders to take off to the coast, and then the defensemen. The most recent one was Zach Urban. Before that was Brandon Fade, and at the start of the season was Jake Fayella, who played 2 games in Atlanta, came back to the Mayhem for 1, and then went back up to the ECHL to join former Mayhem head coach Kevin Kerr. So for every one of these players that I just named off, we included all 7 of them in the article. It can be viewed on the Mayhem website, MaconMayhem.com. It can be seen on Mayhem social media still as well, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It can also be viewed on the SPHL website. The SPHL was kind enough to retweet it and share it for us. So it's a nice read, and I got great feedback from all these other broadcasters in the ECHL who told me really nothing but great things about the players that the Mayhem have sent up there. So I strongly encourage you, if you're a Mayhem fan, tuned in out there, at some point, I strongly encourage you to go check out that article and see how our guys are doing up in the coast. But for tonight, the focus will be on the players that Leo Thomas does have at his disposal, and perhaps one could argue the most important player to the Mayhem's success this season is not available to them. Jake Trask will not play tonight for the Mayhem. He is dealing with a personal matter, so he is out, and the Mayhem are just going to have to do their best to get on without him. Roanoke missing their leading scorer, Max Guyon, or he was their leading scorer before injury, and the Mayhem losing one of the top scorers in the entire SPHL in Jake Trask, who's got 26 points in 25 games this season. Trask sitting at second in the league in scoring behind only Birmingham's Josh Harris, so his presence will undoubtedly be missed tonight. The Mayhem have stuck Mike Chimello on his old spot alongside Stathis Sumalitis and John Seamer. Sutliff, Levesque, and Taulian will be after that, and then Cameron, Soper, and Bunn will make up the Mayhem's third line. So Macon also rolling with 9 forwards tonight, but they've got an extra D. Seth Ronsberg alongside Kristaps Bazovics on his left. Larry Smith, Nick Minerva on defense behind that, and Jarrett Cupp and Taylor Love making up the Mayhem's third defensive pair. Ian Silvis and Henry Dill are the Mayhem's netminders. And the referee for tonight's game will be Eric Krasnichuk. The linesman will be Derek Calise and Chase Wilkinson. We're going to take a brief pause on the Mayhem Broadcast Network. When we come back, we'll have starting lineups announced for you. We'll take a look at the 3 keys of tonight's game, who's hot, who to watch, and so much more. Right after this, folks, you're listening to Macon Mayhem Hockey on the Mayhem Broadcast Network. All right, well, welcome back, folks. Well, we've got starting lineups coming your way for the first game of 2019. We're so glad you decided to join us here for some Friday night hockey here on January 4th, 2019. Roanoke actually in a different situation than the Mayhem are in right now. For Macon, it's their first game in 6 days. Roanoke played one 4 days ago. They were defeated 5-4 in that contest on New Year's Eve, so it was a bitter pill to swallow for them. They're going to be hoping to avenge themselves, though one of the shining stars from that night, Colin Murray, he is in the lineup tonight and raring to go for Dan Bremner and the Rail Yard Dogs. He had a 4-point night on Monday and had 2 goals, 2 assists. He is really hoping to keep the good times rolling tonight. The Mayhem will be doing all that they can to slow him down. Seth Ronsberg starting on defense tonight for the Macon Mayhem. He's been battling through injuries all season long, but he's hoping to stay healthy now and help the team get to where it needs to be. His defensive partner this evening will be Kristaps Bazovics. So without Urban here, Ronsberg has taken his old role and will serve alongside Kristaps as the Mayhem's starting defensive pair. Taking it Jake Trask's place this evening, on a line with Stathis and Seymour, will be Mike Cimello, who has scored the first goal of the game twice in the short time that he's been here. He's been a really good icebreaker for the Mayhem. We'll see if he can do that again tonight, and John Seymour will line up at center on this line with Cimello on his right. And finally, on his left, Stathis Soumalidis, who got into a fight last Saturday night, the last time the Mayhem played. He's been the Mayhem's probably their most consistent fighter this season. He's way up there in penalty minutes, though he was passed by Alexander Tauline in that department. Ian Silvis, the starting netminder tonight for Leo Thomas and the Mayhem, hoping to redeem himself after a rough start to the game last Saturday. That's the only time we've seen Silvis struggle all season, really, and he's going to hope to put that one to bed. And there's no better way to do that than with a strong outing on home ice against the team that gave him some trouble last Saturday.
Dr. Thornsberry of Ortho, Georgia. Dr. Peterson from Macon Periodontics. Dr. Walker from Walker Dental. Roger Fleming from Body Awareness Performance Therapy. And Dr. Butler from... forward, Jake Trask. At this time, we ask that you please rise and join the Mayhem in a moment of silence in Tate's memory. Thank you. Please remove your caps as the Christ Lutheran Church of Perry performs tonight's national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, Christ Lutheran Church of Perry.
So the Christ Lutheran Church of Perry doing a nice job of singing our country's national anthem here at the onset of the first game of the 2019 annual year. We're so glad you decided to join us, folks. The Mayhem squaring off against the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs here this evening. Let's take a look at Roanoke's starting lineups. They are going with Tanner Creel in net, and he's been the stronger of the two netminders for Roanoke this season in terms of his save percentage and goals against, but Roanoke has not played as well in front of him as they have in front of Jacob Caffrey, so that's a bit of an enigma there. In a weird situation in which, though Creel has had the better numbers, Caffrey has the better record. Starting at skater tonight on defense, Wojtek Zemlichka will be on the blue line alongside Alexander Lilchuk, and then up front, Jesse Schwartz with Zach Niemanen and Eric Witzel. The referee for tonight's game is Eric Krasnichuk. The linesmen are Derek Calise and Chase Wilkinson. The Mayhem tonight hoping to improve to 18-5-3 and snap this three-game winless drought. The Mayhem have never, in their four-season history, dropped 4 consecutive games. And they'll be darned if that night is tonight. They'll be competing their hearts out to prevent that from happening here on back-to-school night, the first game of 2019. It's a busy night in the SPHL. Everyone's in action here this evening. Birmingham is in Knoxville tonight. Quad City is in Evansville, Huntsville and Peoria, and Fayetteville down in Pensacola. That's another team that's really been eaten apart by ECHL call-ups, the Pensacola Ice Flyers, as though they were not struggling enough this season offensively, and now they're down to just a single goalie as Keegan Asmundson was called up. I'm sure they found, Rod Aldoff and company found a good replacement for Asmundson, who had gone up to the, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Kalamazoo Wings. Brian Billett's sort of the lone netminder down in Pensacola right now. So this has affected everyone, folks. It's almost like a scourge passing through the SPHL. This roster's being picked apart by call-ups and by injuries. In fact, most of the time, injuries are the cause for the call-ups. It's not just been injuries in our league, of course, and when one happens in the American League or the ECHL, well, it speaks, it's a testament to how much this league has improved over the years and how much teams in affiliate leagues trust the process down here, and that serviceable talent, more than serviceable talent, can step in and not look out of place and even thrive in cases. The opening face-off taking place at center ice here at the Macon Centreplex. John Seamer wins the first face-off of 2019. Kristaps Pazovic gets the D-to-D pass from Seth Ronsberg, then rims one around to the far half wall near the Margaritas Mercer Village dasher board, and it's spun around behind the goal line by Eric Witzel, who just had a 5-game point streak snapped on Monday against Knoxville. Pazovic lets it fly, misfires wide of the left elbow. I think getting just a piece of it was Tanner Creel. Tanner Creel, the former Reading Royal, he was up there for a brief tenure earlier this season. Now Andrew D'Agostini has taken his place as one of Reading's backup netminders, and Roanoke has just iced the puck. I spoke with a good buddy of mine, David Fine, the Director of Broadcasting and Media Relations for the Reading Royals in the ECHL. He told me that Andrew D'Agostini was phenomenal that weekend. Won all 3 games in which he started and played. Now Kristaps Pazovic is being penalized for a cross-check. He delivered a check at the left point when the puck came out of his zone. I thought it might have been called interference. Could have been interference or cross-checking. And Eric Krasnichuk decided to go with the latter. So in the first 40 seconds, the Mayhem are going to their first J&J Heating and Air Conditioning penalty kill here this evening, as it's cycled now to the top of the right circle for Jordan Carvalho, who will wheel his way down and shoot. Silvas made the save, and the loose puck rolls up to the slot. Levesque put it on his backhand and cleared it all the way down. It's going to be Tanner Creel making a play with it. He drops it inside of the trapezoid behind his net for Wojtek Zemlichka, and he will start it right up the middle, gain the red line, and float one into the left corner area where it's scooped up on the far side by Jeff Jones, who's been something of a Mayhem killer. And Niemanen's got it now on the outer hash mark to the right circle. He will roll it on back to the blue line. Carvalho sends it over to the top of the left circle. Zemlichka centered it. No room really for a play to be made on the carry by Colin Murray, and there's going to be a high sticking infraction called against Roanoke, and the odds will even out here. We'll go to the 4-on-4. Eric Krasnichuk perhaps making a statement. In the first 90 seconds of this game, he's called 2 penalties. He knows these teams have seen a lot of each other. This will be the first of 2 games this weekend alone, and this is the 7th time these teams have gotten together already this season. So we'll go to the 4-on-4. The faceoff will take place in the right circle of the Roanoke zone. Steve Millet, the Roanoke captain, who's got the most points out of anybody on Roanoke's active squad right now against Macon. He's got 4 points played in as many games against the Mayhem in 6 games against the Mayhem this season. A goal and 3 assists. Roanoke has just iced the puck. We're still on the 4-on-4, so it's actually a double minor called against Roanoke. So Zemlichka will be in the sin bin for 4 minutes, not 2. So the Mayhem will get a nice long power play to work with after the next 49 seconds, after which Kristaps Bazovic will be let out of the penalty box. So the puck is corralled by Caleb Cameron at the left point, and he will reverse it down the half wall for Soper. Lefts it off for Ronsberg. His shot goes off of a skate of Roanoke's defenseman, and it's feathered up from the left side by Travis Armstrong, who scored the game winner against the Mayhem on Saturday. Silvis comes up big with a glove save on Steve Millet, and will hang on, taking a whistle. 17:51 has expired here in the first period. 29 seconds remain on the cross-checking penalty called against Kristaps Bazovic. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, folks. We're glad you decided to tune in for the first game of 2019 here at the Macon Centreplex. A defensive zone faceoff will take place in the left circle in the Mayhem zone. Larry Smith, avid outdoorsman, to the native of the Czech Republic, Kristaps Bazovic. Scooted around by Taylor Love, the ex-Carolina Thunderbird. Passed along for John Siemer, who skillfully plays it back to himself to elude Carvalho's stick, and he will take it all the way back, waiting for Kristaps to be let out of the box, and he scurries off to the ice and will now presumably head back to the bench. Some confusion whether it should be he or Minerva. Right now the Mayhem have got Minerva and Smith on the ice as their defensemen, and I think Larry's going to skate to the Mayhem bench. He will. He'll be replaced by a forward, so right now Minerva, the lone defenseman on this Mayhem power play. Without Zach Urban's services anymore, Minerva will take over a lot of his old responsibilities. Here's Sutliff getting the pass, putting it to the backhand and slipping it through the crease. It went wide of the left post, and now it's cleared past Minerva all the way down. 2:17 to go on this Wild Wing Cafe power play. Minerva will pick it up inside of the trapezoid behind Ian Silvis. He begins the breakout. Sends it off to his right, goes off the skates of Dustin Levesque and pinballs in towards the goal line in the Roanoke zone. Levesque delivers a hit. Minerva can't keep it. It slides past him all the way down on net for Ian Silvis to make a play. Silvis drops it for Kristaps. Kristaps has Cameron on his left, goes to him with the pass. Cameron gains the zone on the left wing side. He drives, he had Siemer behind him, and instead elects to go over to Stathis on the far half wall. Stathis Sumulidis, third on the Mayhem in scoring this season. He pivots into the slot, loses the puck, rescues it, sends it back to Kristaps, and now it's Siemer. Siemer goes backdoor, what a pass! The shot is on, Creel makes a glove save on Caleb Cameron. John Siemer with a brilliant cross-crease pass, and Caleb Cameron just took a little bit too much time there. And as a result, Creel was able to do some leather flashing and make the save. Cameron hoping that would be his 6th goal of the 2018-19 season. So in Trask's absence here tonight, the AAA line for the first time in a while has been dissipated a little bit. He is not here. Chamello taking his place on that line and on this Mayhem power play setup. So Steve Mille was just penalized as well, so the Mayhem are going to a 5-on-3. Hooking is the call against the Roanoke captain. Bazovic tees up a slap shot, fakes it, goes to Seamer above the left circle. He will slide it down to Cimello, whose pass is intercepted and cleared. And that's valuable seconds taken off the clock. Jesse Schwartz getting the clear. Cleared back out to center by Ian Silvis. Now Cimello will start it down into his off wing and cutting into the slot. Lost the puck. Tried to do a little bit too much there. Offside is called against the Mayhem. And Cimello there just, had he let it go, I think it would have been kept alive at the blue line. But there will be an offside instead. The Mayhem will get a fresh 5 out there. Eric Witzel will take the critical faceoff for Roanoke right in front of the Rail Yard Dogs bench against Justin Levac, who's been a good faceoff man this season for Leo Thomas. Gets the win on that draw. Derek Sutliff offside again. And folks, the Mayhem power play has struggled this season. They rank second to last in the entire league. The only team they've done better than on the power play is Evansville, which is, it's hard to fathom that. The Mayhem, one of the best teams in the league this season. You could argue the best team this season, and their power play has just not really gotten out of the gutter all year. They've been in the bottom half and haven't really figured out a way to rise towards the top. They've been consistent at times in terms of scoring in consecutive games. They've gone on a few stretches where they've scored a power play goal in consecutive games, but it's never really lit up, never really caught fire. Tauline, outer hash marks, far circle, dropping it out of Minerva at the blue line. Sutliff back to Minerva, slap pass to Tauline, his one-timer goes off the side of the net. That's picked up by, or rather that was Levac who took the one-timer. Levac will spirit it back to the line. Minerva finds Sutliff. Sutliff in front, tipped on goal by Soper and stopped by Tanner Creel. Zemlichka's let out of the sin bin. It's taken behind the net by Sutliff, cycled up to Soper and given on back to the blue line. Soper gets it from Levac and delays. Soper up to Minerva, slap shot. And he whistled it over the net. Goes off the stanchions behind the goal. Cycled now down to Tauline, who will drop it for Sutliff at the left point. Sutliff feeds it down to the adjacent corner for Jimmy Soper. Now to Levac, who shoots off the side of the goal. It rattles back to the left point. Sutliff has it. 8 seconds on this power play remaining. Minerva back to Sutliff. Winds and fires a slap shot. Stopped by Creel. Loose puck rolls up the slot. Kept in the zone momentarily. Nice play by Levac, but the Mayhem are gassed. Levac from the corner swivels his way towards the front. Can't get a shot off. Levac will now take over behind the net. One-timer is on. Stopped by Creel. Loose puck out to Bazovic. The Rail Yard Dogs are exhausted, but they're going to get a chance to clear this here, and they do. A vital line change now underway for Roanoke, who have improved to full strength, killing off that long 5-on-3 power play for Macon. Mayhem have just dropped to 0 for 2 on the Wild Wing Cafe power play tonight, and a scramble in front of the goal ends up seeing Stathis Sumilidis landing on his wallet. Play resumes here as the puck trickles out into the deep slot of the Roanoke zone, where it's carried out by Travis Armstrong, the 6'5" blue liner. Bazovic will swing one over towards Seth Ronsberg, who's wrapped up, and it just got quite a bit brighter in here, in case you didn't notice. As we had some faulty lights, or the lights were dimmer than they should have been. So I suppose the Mayhem might might use that as an excuse as to why they didn't convert on the 5-on-3. It wasn't bright enough in here. Cimello will pass it to himself. Wojtek Zemlichka pins him to the corner. The glass on the near side. Stathis Sumilidis had the puck knocked off his blade. And now getting pinned to the wall is Cimello as well. Zemlichka pressured by his countryman Stathis Sumilidis. Eric Witzel passed it to himself as well. Chopped down the wall by John Seamer. Seamer has since cooled off a little bit, but not long ago he was on an absolute roll. He's hoping to get that going as well tonight. Cup swivels down the slot, lost the puck. Turnaround shot by Bunn is on and stopped by Creel. Left half wall, cycled back to the point. Cup, D-to-D pass over to Love on the far side. He twisted off the backboards, hoping for a fortuitous bounce. He got Jimmy Soper, but he was well covered, and Zemlichka will skate it out of harm's way. Now to Jesse Schwartz on his right. Schwartz is checked by the other 8, Jarrett Cup. Covering ground for him, Caleb Cameron sending it over. 11:42 to play here in the first period. Jimmy Soper doing some dipsy-doodling on Travis Armstrong, but ultimately losing the puck behind the goal line. And now it's Bauer sent it out to the skates. And a centering pass is smothered up and held by Ian Silvis. Mac Jansen unable to make that play there after a pretty nice soccer play he made near the Mayhem bench. 11:25 to go in the first period. No score, but the Mayhem dominating in terms of time on possession, or time of possession and shots on goal. Shots on goal not showing yet on the scoreboard, but I'd venture to say the Mayhem are in cruise control in that department. Time of possession has been strongly in their favor, of course, in large part due to that 5-on-3 power play. We're going to take a brief pause in the Mayhem Broadcast Network. So the ensuing draw will be to the right of Ian Silvis, who's been perfect so far, as has his counterpart Tanner Creel. The 231s have both kept a clean sheet through the first 8.5 minutes here. Puck's been cleared down the ice. Sutliff could get a breakaway. He's got a step. He kicks it up too far outside of his reach and couldn't get a shot off there. It was a valiant effort there by Derek Sutliff, who had a goal and an assist last week. He will steamroll down the right side and cut into the circle and fire. Routine stick save made by Creel. Tallene delivers a check into the half wall on the near side on Jeff Jones. Alexander Tallene got a Gordie Howe hat trick his last game in this building. As he goes crashing into the Apparel Authority dasherboard over near the Macon bench. For those of you who are unaware, the Gordie Howe hat trick consists of a goal, an assist, and a fight all in the same game. Not very often do you see a player do that. It was the first time this season one of the Mayhem has managed to do so. It was the first hat trick of any kind this season. The Mayhem still without a regular hat trick through 25 games. Scoring goals has been decent for the Mayhem this season, averaging 3 per game, exactly 3 per game coming into this tilt. But their real calling card has been keeping the puck out of their net. Their goaltending and their penalty killing and their defensemen, and of course their forwards, have really done an outstanding job of keeping opposing attacks and offenses at bay. Jesse Schwartz will wheel out to the half wall on the far side. His clearing attempt is picked up by Chamello, who nearly spotted Sumalitis with a blind backdoor pass, and Chamello will get the pass now from Sumalitis behind the net. Reverse it down to Seamer, who's got his stick in there trying to pry it free. He goes down, as does Chamello, and it's going to be scooped up harmlessly by Alexander Lilchuk. And the Russian defenseman from the red line will shoot it in. We're now halfway through this first period, still scoreless at the Mac Shack. It's been cleared by Seamer, past Lilchuk, who scoops it up now in the neutral zone. And the harassment from Michael Bunn notwithstanding, he was able to clear it past the goal line into the Mayhem zone. Bunn goes after it in the corner on the far side. He's pestered by Mac Jansen, but was able to work it up the half wall. Michael Bunn making his Mayhem debut tonight, folks. We'll hear from the newest edition of the Macon Mayhem in the first intermission of tonight's game. Nice being able to meet him and get his thoughts on joining the Macon Mayhem. Puck bounces off of Carvalho's glove as he looks to drive, but the ex-Rail Yard Dog defenseman Taylor Love impeded his progress. It floats up to the top of the slot, kept in the zone. Wrist shot is blocked by Seamer and cleared up to Jarrett Cupp. Love will fire it in. Skirts along the end wall counterclockwise, or rather clockwise, and out to the far half wall. Zemlichka tried to clear, kept in the zone, fired back to the blue line, but Love was out at center ice. He will re-enter the zone now and spring Soper, who slaps it off the glove of Tanner Creel, who got rid of it right out in front of him, and a big bad turnover almost resulted And an awful goal against. Unfortunately for the Rail Yard Dogs, they escape unscathed. It's brought down the left side now by Murray, who shot it through the blue paint and wide of the net. 8 minutes to play here in period one. No score at the Macon Centreplex. The first game of 2019. Mayhem hoping to start 2019 well. Neither of these teams ended 2018 with a win. Roanoke beat the Mayhem, and then Roanoke took on Knoxville and fell 5-4. Icing the call against Roanoke, and then look out, Nick Minerva went down. He pushed the man he was in contention with for that icing. I believe it was Cody Dion, if I'm not mistaken. The two of them both went down. Dion landed on Minerva, and that's a big boy, Cody Dion. You do not want him landing on you, folks, I'll tell you that much. Dion is a load, standing at 6'4", 240, and he landed on Nick Minerva after Minerva went down. So Dion skating now, the alternate captain for Roanoke, skating to the penalty box. Minerva will join him in the Beyond Taboo Tattoo penalty box. Dion in the Mayhem is Everywhere All-State Bonding penalty box. So John Seymour is going to have a word with Eric Krasnichuk and see what the rationale here is behind the, we assume it'll be a 4-on-4 stemming from this. Oh, we've got a minute here. Let's take a look at our 3 keys of tonight's game because we didn't recite them before the game started. Number 1, scoring the first goal is going to be very important. And that's still up for grabs for both of these teams. The Mayhem 14-0 when they score the first goal this season. That can always be the key to the game. Number 2, generating power play opportunities. Roanoke has the weakest penalty kill in the league in terms of the stats at least, with a 73% success rate. So the Mayhem will hope to take advantage of that. They've had success on their power play against Roanoke at times this season. And finally, patience with the puck. That was the key a couple of times in Roanoke last Saturday night. The Mayhem's both of their goals came because of brilliant patience with the puck. Zach Urban is setting up the first goal with a nice play to Jake Trask, and then the second goal coming off the stick of Derek Sutliff. He was fed by Nick Minerva, who drove down his off wing as a defenseman and waited for the perfect opportunity to pass it off. So Minerva with a great assist last Saturday night in Roanoke. And Sutliff with that goal. It's dropped down the boards and picked up by Zemlichka now, who turned it over right in front of the net. Stathis with a backhand shot that sails over the crossbar. Seymour is down there. Ronsberg pinches into the corner, takes a whack at the puck, but to no avail. And a collision is dealt at center. Here's an opportunity for Seymour. He's behind the defense, wide open. Seymour to the goal, stopped by Creel. Seymour picks it up, bottom of the right circle, centering for Sutliff. He's got room. His shot stopped by Creel. Aggressive goaltending by Tanner Creel, and it's paying off for Roanoke, who have averted so many crises tonight, and they come right back the other way and score. It's Nate O'Brien skating it coast to coast after a mad scramble at the other end of the ice. It probably should have been 1 or 2 goals by the Mayhem. Instead, it's a goal for Roanoke. And the first goal of the night belongs to Nate O'Brien, the defenseman, who took it from his own crease, basically. Skated all the way down into the Mayhem zone from the right circle. Looked like just shoveled it over Ian Silvas. And has scored a 4-on-4 goal for Roanoke. It's a 1-0 Rail Yard Dogs lead. Taylor Love to Levesque. Dropped it along for Sutliff. Not enough gas on it. Sutliff was outnumbered when picking that puck up. Now it's Nate O'Brien, the goal scorer for Roanoke, with it behind his own goal. He will begin off to his right. O'Brien on his backhand, shovels it out and off the stick of Jeff Jones, who will pursue Derek Sutliff for Reddick Cup for it. Jarrett Cup wheeling with great speed up to center and beyond that, gains the zone on the far side and slaps it on goal, stopped by Creel. It's left off inside of the trapezoid and given now to the right side for Alexander Lilchuk. Lilchuk gaining the blue line, dangled into the right corner. He's closed off of it. It's whacked up the boards too far for Sutliff. Right point slap shot stopped by Silvas with the pads. Sutliff sends it over into the Zemlichka vicinity. He will twist it back out to the blue line, and Colin Murray's got it. Zemlichka went down in the far corner. I believe Jimmy Soper dealt the blow. Would not surprise me. The hard-hitting Newfoundland native gets the pass from Michael Bunn, and now Cameron will turn it on goal. Stopped. Bunn with the rebound, was falling while shooting it. Didn't get much on it as a result. Michael Bunn with a pretty good opportunity in his Mayhem debut. So now it's Alexander Lilchuk, who passed one inadvertently off the skates of Stathis-Sumalitis, forcing a turnover. Seamer right back in, missed the net wide of the right post, slapped back towards the goal, blocked by Zemlichka. Boy, folks, the Mayhem are humming right now. You'd think it would only be a matter of time. Misfortune has really haunted the Mayhem so far this evening. They have been the better team, no doubt, and yet they trail 1-0 with 4:22 to play in period one. It rolls up past Stathis-Sumalitis out to the red line where it's rattled back in. Ronsberg swats at it, goes up to Chamello, who goes down to a knee, makes the play nicely up to Sumalitis. He will spring John Seamer. Seamer passes it to himself, and from the left corner delivers a blow to Zemlichka, knocking him down, or rather that was Nate O'Brien. That big collision brought to you by Harrison's Body Shop. Now it's flung back to the point by Chamello to Smith, whose shot is off the mark. Chamello is pinned up to the half wall on the far side by Jordan Carvalho. Squeaks back to Seamer, who's been out there for some time. Larry Smith snaps off a wrist shot that was blocked on its way through by Derek Sutliff. Now Chamello goes down. Looked like he was tripped, but Krasnichuk keeps his arm down for the time being. O'Brien is harassed by Alexander Tallien. Schwartz is out to center with it. Minerva will pursue a fluttering puck now in his own end. He's somebody that, with all these defensemen parting ways with the Mayhem up to the ECHL, is going to have to take on a very extensive and extended workload. The 22-year-old blue liner. Cup slips around a check. He shoots. Stopped by Creel. Got a piece of the glove on it, and the puck flies out of play. The Cup had a 3-on-1 there. He's been really going coast to coast a lot down that right side, down his off wing. Jarrett Cupp, a very smooth skating defenseman who's creating a few opportunities to score here tonight. And he's not alone, folks. The Mayhem have had the better chances. There's no doubt about it. And one thing I will say, and we're far from the third period, obviously, but it's been simply amazing to me, the disparity in the not only the goal differential, but the shot differential and the time on attack differential that the Mayhem have had in the third period. They've been the best third period team in the league. There's no disputing that. They have the most goals in the third period. They've allowed the fewest goals in the third period. Their shots on goal now well in the green in the differential department. In the first and second periods, folks, the Mayhem have been an above average team. And in the third periods, they've been phenomenal. At least that's what one would surmise by looking at the stats. And though the stats aren't always indicative of the way the game is played, that's a case in which they are. Without a doubt, the Mayhem, the best third period team in the league so far this season. But we'll see if they can muster up some first period magic here, heading into a first intermission with a tie game. Looks a lot better than going into the second period trailing. So Armstrong will carry in behind his own goal line. Dion is able to squeak it past Jarrett Cupp, who tried to pressure him. Love now covering ground, backpedaling and hoisting it out to Derek Sutliff. Now up to Tallien. Alexander Tallien gains the blue line, centers for Levesque, whose return intended for Tallien never reached him. Well, it's Nate O'Brien going rink wide with the pass over to Travis Armstrong, and it's redirected into Macon territory. Levesque bounces over Tallien's blade, and Steve Millet will swivel out to the red line and dump it in. Cupp's got it for Macon. Up to Cameron. Sent back down into the corner on the far side. The Mayhem having some difficulties getting the puck out. They've finally done so, and it looked like Bunn chipped it past Zemlichka, who squeezed him off into the sideboards, or Bunn might have had a great chance. Now it's Ronsberg recollecting in his own zone. He will fling it out to center. Broken up by Ben Bauer, who will scoop it up now left point. He rattles it behind the net. It's collected by Kristaps Bazovics, and the Latvian-born blue liner left it off now for Jimmy Soper in his own zone. Soper down his off wing, gains the zone on the right side. It bounces in front, hacked wide by Cameron. It's a broken play, and Cameron just fired it wide of the left post. Now Cameron will go in and do some knife work, but it's been past him. And out to the right point in the Roanoke zone, bounced out from Schwartz over to the left side for Armstrong, who sends it behind the Macon net. Armstrong out to center for Niemanen. He will redirect it, and Silvis will take a whistle. Ian Silvis now among the top goaltenders in the SPHL in a lot of goaltending categories. It took him a while to be in that conversation because he has to play a certain number of games first before they can start counting him among the league leaders in goals against average and save percentage. But Silvis is in the top four really, in both of those. He ranks fourth in goals against with a 2.33 through 9 games played, and he ranks third in save percentage with a 928. Discount the game from Evansville, he would be even higher in both of those departments, but they all count. So Chamello will roll it to John Seamer now in the left corner. His shot was blocked. And Cody Dion will slide it into the middle of the ice to his fellow alternate captain, Colin Murray. Smith's got it. Minerva. Smith. Break out to Stathis, who tries to slip away from his fellow Czech Republic native, Wojtek Zemlichka, who will hoist it out. The Niagara grad Larry Smith played it down with a hand pass, says one of the linesmen, so we get a whistle stopping play. 27.6 seconds remain here in the first period. The Mayhem trailing the Rail Yard Dogs 1-0, despite tripling them in shots on goal, 12-4. Justin Levesque off the tie-up is beaten by Jordan Carvalho, and it's twisted in. Silvis to Cup. Cup is shoved by Jeff Jones, but he moves it up to Derek Sutliff. Cleared back into Macon territory. They've got time for one last shot if they rush it down the ice. But it doesn't look like that will happen, and the Mayhem will enter the second period trailing the Rail Yard Dogs by a 1-0 score. Now this score is in no way, shape, or form indicative of the way this first period has gone. Macon has, I don't know if I'd say dominated, but it's pretty, if that's not the right word, I don't know what is. The Mayhem have really dictated the tempo of this game. They've controlled the puck for the majority of time. Shots on goal, 12 out of 16 of the first period shots on goal went to Macon. That's 75%. I would venture to say the time of possession is probably even more than 75% in Macon's favor. So if they keep playing the way they did in that first period, folks, I would find it hard to believe that the score wouldn't change. So it's only a matter of time unless Roanoke changes things around. And normally when teams go into the first period, the team that's winning, the coach that's winning tells the guys to keep doing what they were doing, and the team that's losing has to make a bunch of adjustments. I think this time it's the other way around. Roanoke really needs to make some adjustments, and the Mayhem have to just keep doing what they've been doing. And if that's the case, barring even more unfortunate bounces and even more enormous saves from Tanner Creel, the Mayhem would be able to turn this around. They won the first 4 games in this head-to-head season series against Roanoke. They've dropped the last 2, however, including their last game on Saturday, December 29th, the last game of the 2018 annual year for Macon. So we're going to take a pause here on the Mayhem Broadcast Network, folks. When we come back, we'll take a look around the SPHL. We'll break down that first period for you in greater detail. and talk about what the Mayhem must do to come away with a goal in period 2 and so much more. But in the meantime, keep it right here, folks. You're going to hear from the Mayhem's newest addition, Michael Bunn, in just a moment.
Let's send it to David on the ice for tonight's first intermission game.
All right, Mayhem fans, welcome to Back to School Night. We've got two wonderful contestants that help us with the Carrabba's dress relay. We have Tucker and we have Oliver. And whoever is going to be able to score first, back to courtesy of Italian.
How did you find out you became?
Let's hear it.
What was your first?
Tucker and Oliver. All right, guys, they've got to make it all the way down. Put on their hockey gear as they get here with the gloves,
Welcome back, Mayhem fans.
with the stick, and knock the puck in, and Asa over here is going to tell us who's the winner. All right, guys, you ready? Tucker, Oliver, you guys ready? Get set, go! And they're off. It looks pretty good.
Stop. Welcome to Macon.
Gentlemen, whoever can get in first before the goal wins a nice package from Carrabba's Italian Grill. Oliver, you got to go back and make sure you have it on, buddy. Okay, round one is on. Looks like Tucker's in. Let's hear it, crowd. Let's hear it for these guys and their hard work. I don't know if the Mayhem got the right sizes out for these kids to wear. First close, Tucker, you're ahead. Let's see what's happening. Asa, I know that you're going to be buckled. Mayhem fans, let's hear it. It's getting close. We got the guys almost here. It is almost the end of it. Can it make it in? Congratulations, you're going to win a nice package from Carrabba's. Oliver, it was a close game. You did a great job. I think you got professional hockey ahead of you.
Happy birthday, Sean. Braden turned 6 years old today. Let's all give Braden a big round of applause. Happy birthday. I'd like to remind you that Kinetics Health Club will help you move better and feel better. No enrollment fee when you sign up for the lobby today.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm tired. It's been a long drive in from Lafayette this morning. This day started at about 2:30, waking up and had about enough time to hotel and then get to the rink.
All right, well, welcome back, Mayhem. Tonight on the Mayhem Broadcast Network, you're listening to Mayhem Hockey and SPHL Live, powered by New Line and YouTube. For the first game of the 2019 annual year, by the newest addition to the Macon Mayhem, Michael Bunn. Michael, first off, welcome to Macon.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
How did you find out you'd be coming here, and what was your first reaction?
Well, my coach in Carolina called me in the locker room and said, I got a call from Macon, and they're interested in taking you, and I was very excited right away. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to go.
And it's my understanding that this season in Carolina, it's your second season there. You were a point per game guy there last season, and This year your role's changed a little bit. You've had to sort of rotate back to defense because of all the injuries. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I played forward last year, and but at the start of this year, we had one of our top D guys get called up, and coach needed somebody to step back that he could trust on the defensive end, and he gave me a shot, and it wasn't easy at first because my brain is wired go north like a forward, but I thought that I really started to step into that role as a defenseman for them nicely.
Yeah, it's a different role and it's a different workout as well. It's not as much just go, go, go. It's more you got to be a little bit smarter. You have to move east and west a little bit more. You have to move your hips a lot more, and you have to be more conscious of what's going on in front of you and behind you. Do you consider yourself sort of a two-way forward? Did you have experience before you're going pro, playing defense at all, that you were comfortable being able to switch roles like that?
No, actually I didn't. That was the first time in my whole career that I played defense, and I was very nervous at first, but I believe that the past few weeks playing D will help me playing forward this weekend and forward in the future. Being defensive-minded first helped me to be a two-way forward.
Now, has Coach Thomas talked to you at all about what kind of role he expects you to play here and what things he expects you to bring to the table?
I mean, he brought me in and said that he needs a guy that can put the puck in the net on the front end, and that's kind of what I like to do, so hopefully I'll have success at that.
So, well, we certainly need that. The Mayhem are really good at keeping the puck out of their net. They're best in the league in that department. But in terms of scoring goals, they average 3 exactly per game, which is in the bottom half of the SPHL, an area the Mayhem are hoping to improve on. And I'm sure with you being here, that's going to help the Mayhem and their scoring depth and scoring potential and upside. So, Michael, you're not unfamiliar with this locker room at all. There's a couple guys here who played in Carolina this season. One of whom is actually a former Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs, the Mayhem's opponent tonight, Taylor Love. I'm sure you've come to know him pretty well. And then, of course, the recent acquisition of goaltender Henry Dill as well. Is it exciting for you coming to an area where you're pretty comfortable already knowing a couple players and probably more than that beyond just those two?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, I definitely feel comfortable. Me and Henry lived together in Carolina for a while early this year, and I played against a few guys in that room also last year, and it's nice. I've been very welcomed by these guys, and I feel very comfortable.
All right, last question for you here. It's we're playing against Roanoke, like we said earlier. The Mayhem have dropped their last 2 outings against them, even though they won their first 4 this season. For you to have a good game, it's a bit of a jump from the FHL to the SPHL. What's going to be important for you to keep in mind tonight as you make your Mayhem debut?
I just got to remember to keep it simple, make simple plays, and to play hard. I mean, as long as I can keep it simple and make good defensive plays, I think I'll be just fine.
Sounds great, Michael. Well, best of luck in your first game with the Mayhem, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
That's Michael Bunn, the newest addition to your Macon Mayhem, number 11 tonight on the ice in the white sweaters with navy trim. This has been your first intermission report. We'll be back in just a moment for your out-of-town scoreboard updates and more right after this.
This season, the Mayhem are offering a great group package. Whether you're a school, a church, a company, or just a group of friends, give the Mayhem office a call and we'll set you up with an incredible group deal. From $13 tickets to free team hats to a unique experience upgrade of your choosing, the Mayhem have got you and your group covered. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to purchase your group tickets to a Mayhem game today. Need to raise some money for your organization? Contact the Mayhem front office and we'll be happy to partner up with your group to help you fundraise for a cause. You buy tickets from us at $10, you sell them for $15, and then you keep the remaining $5 per ticket sold for whatever cause you like. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to set up a fundraiser for your organization today. Partial season ticket plans are still available. With the Mayhem's home season halfway through, you can still purchase the quarter season plan or the half season plan through our website for as low as $105. With VIP parking, 10% off the merchandise, access to event pre-sales, and more, the benefits of becoming a partial season ticket holder are endless. Visit the Tickets tab on our website, maconmayhem.com, for more information. Don't forget, Mayhem fans, the Mayhem are having a different promotional night for every one of their home games in the 2018-19 season. With 90s Night, Superhero Night, Princess Night, Military Weekend, and so much more, there won't be a game all season where we won't have something exciting going on at the Macon Centreplex. Visit our website at maconmayhem.com for more details.
Okay, folks, well, welcome back, and we hope you enjoyed that interview with the Mayhem's newest addition, Michael Bunn. I want to apologize for the beginning there. We were having some audio difficulties here with the playing back the interviews and pre-recorded content. So the good news is I can hear exactly what you can, so I know when there's something wrong. So I knew right away that that was an issue, so we just went back and played it from the beginning so you could hear the full length of it, but hopefully we can get that issue sorted out as soon as possible. Back to the hockey side of things, the Mayhem are trailing the Rail Yard Dogs 1-0. It's not been a game in which you would think that would be the case. The Mayhem dominating play in the first period, and I feel comfortable saying that. They outshot Roanoke 12-4. The time on attack was probably even more lopsided. They forced Tanner Creel to make two desperation saves on the 4-on-4. After Minerva and Dion were sent to the respective penalty boxes for offsetting roughing minors, and the Mayhem took advantage of the 4-on-4 more than Roanoke did, but Roanoke ended up with the goal. So sometimes that's just the way the puck bounces, and Macon really having not a whole lot to improve upon going into period two. Roanoke, on the other hand, if they came out the way that they did in the opening frame, they might struggle for the rest of this contest. Of course, Roanoke very shorthanded, and you've got to sympathize with them, with their situation. Now they're down one of their top defensemen, Brian Rowland, who's been excellent against the Mayhem this season. He is out. He leads all Roanoke defensemen in scoring. And then there's Max Gouillon, of course, who was Roanoke's leading scorer before going down with injury. He returned from injury. Now he's back on the IR. So that's been a struggle. Dylan Fox was just called up to the Maine Mariners of the ECHL. And then, of course, Sean Federow, who is a pretty darn good defenseman as well, is now up in Toledo with Zach Urban. So I think these teams are pretty much equally depleted right now in terms of the personnel that they're missing. The Mayhem, of course, down at least 4 players right now as well, if you count the 2 recent call-ups from just this past week, and then Dakota Kletcha with his injury, and Jake Trask, which, by the way, folks, the news is now out and public. It was announced here by our public address announcer, Charles Olson, to the fans here at the Macon Centreplex. So I would just like to express my personal heartfelt condolences to Jake Trask and his wife Holly Marie Trask, as their newborn child, Jade Penelope Trask, unfortunately passed away at birth, and it was really crushing news to hear. And Jake Trask is just such a beloved player and human being in this city, and has been for so long. And not only for staff and some of his best friends and teammates to hear this news, but also for just the people of this community to hear that news. You could hear the feelings of just despair, and it was very somber in here when that announcement was made. The fans very saddened, of course, to hear that. So please keep Jake Trask, to those of you tuned in on either side tonight, please keep Jake Trask and Holly Marie Trask and Jade Penelope Trask in your thoughts and prayers. 2:15 remain before second period action is brought your way. Again, Macon trailing 1-0 despite dominating the tempo of play. 12-4 your shots on goal in favor of Macon. Let's take a look around the league for a brief out-of-town scoreboard update before we get back to business here at the Macon Centreplex. Again, it's a busy night. Every team is playing. Peoria is hosting Huntsville, hoping for a little redemption. They did not get the results they were looking for in Huntsville last weekend, and now the tables have turned, sort of a home-and-home back-to-back weekend series, if you will. No score yet in the first 2.5 minutes played at the Peoria Civic Center right now. And then Knoxville is hosting the Birmingham Bulls, hoping to climb back up into first place where they've been for the majority of the year. Now they're all the way down to third after a tough week last week. Despite steamrolling the Evansville Thunderbolts 6-1 on New Year's Eve, the Birmingham Bulls did not get the week they were looking for. They were swept in a home-and-home series with the Pensacola Ice Flyers, who beat them 6-3 on Friday night and then 5-2 on Saturday. So Birmingham looking to get back on the winning trail and pass the Macon Mayhem up tonight. Of course, Macon has other ideas, hoping to bounce back in this second period and get the outcome that they deserved after that first period of play. No score in Evansville between the inaugural Quad City Storm and the Evansville Bolts, and then Fayetteville will take on Pensacola. Puck drops at 7:35 p.m. Central Standard Time, so in about 10 minutes or so, that will be taking place. So for now, 1-0 Roanoke, your score. We'll be back in just a moment.
This season, the Mayhem are offering a great group package. Whether you're a school, a church, a company, or just a group of friends, give the Mayhem office a call and we'll set you up with an incredible group deal. From $13 tickets to free team hats to a unique experience upgrade of your choosing, the Mayhem have got you and your group covered. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to purchase your group tickets to a Mayhem game today.
So on your screen right now, you are seeing the reason that this game is 1-0. Tanner Creel was fantastic in that first period. He stopped all 12 shots he faced, some of them certainly in the highlight reel category. He made a couple of desperation saves, particularly on the 4-on-4. The fact that that 4-on-4 resulted in a goal for Roanoke and not Macon is pretty mind-boggling, but that is what happened, and sometimes the puck just bounces that way, but sometimes you get great goaltending, and that is what happened. Tanner Creel having a heck of a start tonight for Roanoke. We're back underway here for second period action here in Central Georgia. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on the Mayhem Broadcast Network. We talked about it earlier a little bit, folks. Tanner Creel, the better of the two goaltenders in terms of his save percentage and his goals against average compared to Jacob Caffrey. But Caffrey has the better record so far this season, and particularly against Macon. The Mayhem have seemingly struggled more against Caffrey than they have Creel, but tonight's been an anomaly in that respect. Now it's been cleared out to the neutral zone, and Nick Minerva has it. He will send it off of John Seamer's blade, who redirecting it, hoisting it into the far corner. Armstrong will scoop it up and drop it on back to Lilchuk. And the Russian blue liner taps it up to Colin Murray, and that is Roanoke's leading scorer right now. He's coming off a big weekend, folks. Colin Murray, or a big night, I should say, as a delayed penalties upcoming against the Mayhem. Levesque reaches out with his stick but can't touch it. Mayhem have got to be careful. Last time Roanoke was here, they scored a goal on the delayed penalty. They do not want to waste any time touching this puck as a shot goes off the stick of Larry Smith and out of play. Steve Millet taking the shot attempt. I believe roughing will be the call against Alexander Tallien, who leads the Mayhem in penalty minutes this season, now with 51 on the campaign. Anyways, getting back to Colin Murray, last Monday night, I should say, Monday night of this week, he scored 4 points against the Knoxville Ice Bears, had 2 goals and 2 assists. He contributed on every single goal that Roanoke scored. So number 15 in blue will be a player the Mayhem have to watch out for tonight. From the right half wall, it's spun up to the blue line and deliberately moving up to the right side now with it is Niemanen, who switches places with Ben Bauer and gets it back. Or rather, on the right point, that's Carvalho. Bauer's at the left circle. Carvalho's got it in the deep slot now and surveys his options. Bauer wants the pass from him. He instead will now switch with him. Carvalho delays and cycles it up to Bauer, who fakes the slap shot, passes it over to his right, and gets the return now from Niemanen. It's given to Carvalho, who will swap with Bauer. Carvalho's shot is redirected off the left pad of Silvas, who keeps it out of the net. Spun back to the blue line from the right half wall by Niemanen. Here's Carvalho taking a wrist shot, blocked by the stick, it looked like, of Jarrett Cupp, and twisted out to the neutral zone by Caleb Cameron, who's been one of the Mayhem's most consistent penalty killers this season. He and Jimmy Soper will head to the Macon bench to complete a line change. Halfway through this J&J Heating and Air Conditioning penalty kill, the Mayhem have a fresh 4 out there. Spun up to Millet, who takes a digger. He lost an edge. It's spun up now towards Sutliff, but picked off before it reached him by Schwartz. He will rattle it back into the zone. Millet, rolling puck, whacked at. Skitters now to the left circle on the near side. Schwartz. Witzel up to Armstrong. Over to Schwartz. Millet's in the slot. Armstrong gets the pass, feeds Witzel in the left circle, who sent it off the pads. Rebound shot stopped by Silvas with the shoulder. And Witzel will reverse it down behind the net inside of the trapezoid, whacked around to the far half boards near the K1 dasher board. And it's Millet who's outnumbered 2-1, but the Mayhem can't clear it. It's kept in. Armstrong's long shot is tipped and stopped by the pads of Silvas. Finally, Tallinn is let out of the box, but the Mayhem are not out of the woods yet. Right circle slap pass nearly redirected home by Witzel. Tallinn pesters Armstrong, tries to jimmy the puck free. Armstrong said no. He will reverse it out to the red line. Millet cutting back in, hoping to catch the Mayhem in the midst of a line change here. Down the right wing side, it's brought. Hoping to draw a penalty down there was Ben Bauer. Stathis lost his stick. It's flung up to Millet in the slot. His shot never got all the way through. Tallinn blocked it, or rather received it after the block and sent it over. Sumalidas is onside. Centered it, hoping for Tallinn. It was broken up, kept in play, however, by Bazovics. He will take it now in behind the net. Kristaps Bazovic centering the pass, and it went off the stick of Tallinn and bounced into the corner on the near side. Eric Witzel has cleared it. Witzel was on a roll. He had scored a point in 5 consecutive games until Monday this past week, in which he was held silent off the score sheet in a 5-4 loss against the Knoxville Ice Bears. Travis Armstrong will give it up to Jones. Now Chimello. Cleared into Roanoke territory, no icing as Caleb Cameron's able to win the foot race, but he's well outnumbered as the Mayhem were changing. Soper delivers a check hard on Nate O'Brien, the lone scorer of tonight's game. We're a quarter of the way through the second period as Bunn hammers a slap shot from the outer hash marks of the right circle, and it's stopped by Tanner Creel. Michael Bunn stepping into a pretty pivotal role here on this line with Caleb Cameron and Jimmy Soper. Soper's been an ace in the face-off circle for the Mayhem and has been a staple of this third line all season. I think unquestionably the Mayhem's hardest hitter, joined by a very good two-way forward and returning Mayhem player Caleb Cameron, the RIT grad. It's a pretty good couple of line mates that Michael Bunn is starting out with in his first game with the Mayhem. Puck's been cleared deep into Mayhem territory. Taylor Love is back to fetch it. And the ex-rail yard dog will send Caleb Cameron the pass. Michael Bunn trying to get it out of his own zone, but Murray kept it in it. The referee, Eric Krasnichuk, had a blowout. The crowd applauding that. And Bunn will be harassed by Murray as he goes into the corner on the near side fighting for the loose puck. Soper to Cameron, whose attempt is broken up by Cody Dion, the league leader in penalty minutes this season with 79 heading into this game. Bunn gains a step on Niemanen on the back check. He's able to knock him off balance and off the puck ultimately. Back to the line it goes. Smith will hammer it. It was blocked by Jesse Schwartz's stick. Brought down the middle by Niemanen, who will fire from the deep slot, fought off by Ian Silvis. He got the save with his blocker, and we're going to head to our first media timeout of the second period. Right from that spot where Zach Niemanen just unleashed that wrist shot, that's pretty much exactly where Ian Silvis was scored on Saturday last weekend. And back-to-back goals in the first 6 minutes, that looks pretty darn similar to that. And it was the first time all season, really, where we've seen Silvis not on his game. Tonight, he's looked a lot sharper, but Tanner Creel even more so, as he's faced the busier workload of the two netminders tonight and has stopped every shot he's faced. A baker's dozen now on the board. From the Mayhem, none of them have found twine. Folks, the Mayhem are happy to invite anyone tuned in out to next weekend's games. The Mayhem have got back-to-back home tilts against the Birmingham Bulls next weekend, January 11th and 12th. On January 11th will be video game / arcade night presented by the Creek FM, 100.9 FM on your dial, as well as Reboot, who's got some arcade video games that they're going to bring over from Cherry Street to the lobby of the Macon Centreplex for our fans to enjoy. And then 90s night the following night on Saturday, which is also a family 4-pack offer as well, presented by Amici. That's 4 hot dogs, 4 sodas, 4 bags of chips, and 4 tickets, of course, all for $54, on top of a free large pizza from Amici that does not exceed $20. To purchase a family 4-pack, you can call the Macon Mayhem office at 478-803-1592. O'Brien skitters it back up the boards in front of the benches, and it's fetched now by Larry Smith, who's going to take a check, and he does. He sustains it well from Jesse Schwartz. Sutliff had to slap one up the middle, hoping for Tallene, and it's picked off instead by Nate O'Brien, who will loop it back in. Minerva. Now Levesque down the left side. He will gain the blue line. He feeds it over to Tallene. Offside is the call against Macon. Sutliff just barely having jumped the gun on that zone entry. Derek Sutliff led the entire team last week in shots on goal. He generated 13 shots between last Wednesday night, last Friday, and last Saturday, all of which were on the road. The Mayhem conceded the first goal in all 3 of those games and have now conceded the first goal in 4 consecutive, which is getting away from their game plan a little bit, of course, given how well they've done after scoring the first goal. They would like to do that every game. And I think part of the reason the Mayhem, certainly a huge part of the reason, the Mayhem are still undefeated when scoring first, which they will continue to be after tonight no matter what happens, is because of how well they've done in the third period. We talked about it earlier. They're doubling, almost doubling their third period scoring. In terms of goals for and goals against, they've almost got twice as many goals for in the third periods. Now that's more goals scored and fewer goals against in period 3 than any team in the league. Now Stathis Soumalides is going to be penalized for that hit from behind, and perhaps more than that, as there's a little bit of pushing and shoving afterwards, and the call is going to be against Stathis for boarding, and the Mayhem will go back to the PK. They're 2 for 2 tonight. This Mayhem penalty kill will be brought to you by J&J's Heating and Air Conditioning. And without Stathis, there's only one captain on the ice now for the Mayhem, and that's John Seamer. I think Seamer's trying to argue that when Stathis delivered the hit on Ben Bauer, Bauer was close enough to the boards where it wasn't a dangerous position. But boarding is the call against Stathis, and I think Seamer's probably got a point. If he didn't, you would have seen a lot more rail yard dogs jumping Stathis after that hit. So we'll call that a debatable call against Soumalides, and play will continue here. Armstrong will feed it down to the goal line for Steve Miele, back up to the circle for Jesse Schwartz. Miele gets the return and slapped it into the slot, hoping for Dion, picked off by Smith. Out to the side it goes, and Soper pushes it past. He could get a chance. Soper on the left wing side from the circle will shoot, fought off by Tanner Creel. Cameron floats it into the opposite corner. Armstrong is first there. He is hit by Soper hard. Witzel will be as well. Down he goes. Jimmy Soper, the one-man wrecking crew. Stephen Miele circles with it. Up to the blue line. Travis Armstrong scored from this identical spot last Saturday, but he misfired that time. Witzel. Pinned up by Taylor Love, but he got rid of it down the corner. It's Miele stepping away with it. Miele, Armstrong lets it fly. Missed the near side post, and Larry Smith, the other number 2, picked it up, but he couldn't clear it. Witzel gets the pass in the corner on the far side. He will swing it up to the blue line. Armstrong returns it. Witzel tried to quickly shift it over to Miele, but it was intercepted, and Cameron has just dumped it down. A dozen minutes to play in the second period. The Mayhem still trailing 1-0 in this contest, but we've got plenty of time yet remaining. Armstrong behind his own goal. 32 seconds remain on this J&J's heating and air conditioning penalty kill. Wojtek Zemlichka spins with it and will, on the second breakout effort, get it out of his own zone. Time ticking off the clock on this Roanoke power play. Murray gets the pass from Zemlichka on the breakout. He will send it down the boards now for Jordan Carvalho. It's spun around towards the right point, held in the zone by Zemlichka. He will get it back quickly. He's got a man on his right. He decides to go to him. It's Niemanen who will cycle it down to Jordan Carvalho. Stathis is let out of the penalty box, and Niemanen will carry behind the net. The centering pass never really reached the intended target there, Colin Murray. So the Mayhem improving to 3 for 3 on the PK tonight. Murray centering it. Turnaround shot is on and stopped by Silvis, who robs Jeff Jones. Jeff Jones opened the scoring the last time the Rail Yard Dogs were in this building back on December 8th on Star Wars night. And they spoiled the party, did the Rail Yard Dogs. It was a fun night, but unfortunately for the Mayhem, Roanoke managed to snap their 4-game winning streak. Macon hoping tonight will not start their first ever 4-game losing streak. There's something to be said about that, folks. The Mayhem have never dropped 4 consecutive games in 4 years. Which pales in comparison to their longest win streak, which is 10 games that they did back in their championship season. Nate O'Brien is hauled down by Jimmy Soper. Mac Jansen out-muscled for possession by Caleb Cameron, who will flip it back in. Fans loving Caleb Cameron's efforts. The Mayhem really playing physical now over the past few minutes. Jimmy Soper, Caleb Cameron, Kristaps Bazovics all doing some heavy lifting. Bunn will bounce it off the boards now on the near side of the ice. Nearly got it back. Soper trying to spring one past O'Brien. Jansen out of Armstrong. He will feed Witzel. The second effort hacked it out of his own end and will storm down the right side. Witzel pulls up and shoots. It flutters into the near corner now, and it's going to be scooped up by Michael Bunn. And the former Carolina Thunderbird making his Mayhem debut this evening gets it down to the Roanoke zone. Lilchuk, his first appearance against Macon this season, carries it wide and down the right. He is fought off, but Roanoke maintains possession for the time being. Colin Murray lifts the stick of Chamello, wins the puck, goes to the front of the net. The shot is on, they score. It's Cody Dion, parked right in front of Ian Silvis, fairly uncontested. Just whacked it past the outstretched skate of Ian Silvis. Roanoke has just built on their lead. They now hold a 2-0 edge over the Mayhem. Cody Dion's 11th goal of the season. He is now tied with Colin Murray for the most on the team. And here's another chance right in front of Silvis, but Niemanen couldn't get his stick on the puck that was loose between his skates. Here's Carvalho dropping it down to Jones, who has a cycle it behind the net. Kristaps Bazovic has stood up. Cody Dion leaving it for Carvalho. The two of them switch places. Now Niemanen goes in there with Jones. Carvalho on the outside of the scrap. Up to the blue line. A long shot is off the mark. It bounces right in front. Collected by Ronsberg and fed out of there. Sutliff on the backhand pass to Spring Tauline. He is onside. No, he's offside. An extremely late whistle by the linesman. Offside is the call against Macon. 8:41 to play here in the second period. The Mayhem have really been slowed up a lot by this Roanoke squad, and they have not generated anywhere near the amount of chances they did in the first period through the first 11, 20 or so in period two. We're going to take a short break on the Mayhem Broadcast Network. 2-0 Roanoke, your score.
Who wants a free t-shirt?
Partial season ticket plans are still available. With the Mayhem's home season halfway through, you can still purchase the quarter season plan or the half season plan through our website for as low as $105. With VIP parking, 10% off merchandise, access to event pre-sales, and more, the benefits of becoming a partial season ticket holder are endless. Visit the tickets tab on our website, maconmayhem.com, for more information.
Listen, the orthodontics team offer attentive individualized care that's tailored to you. Listen, the orthodontics where science and art create beautiful smiles.
A quick impromptu scoreboard update here. Still, folks, we're scoreless in Peoria. Huntsville and the Rivermen have not scored. Quad City, Evansville also scoreless up at the Ford Center in southern Indiana. And then Birmingham and Knoxville in the same position they were in when we last checked. 1-1 the score up in Tennessee tonight. Zemlichka. The little Chuck, Mile, Zemlichka will slap one up past Murray, who will continue pursuing it. A one-handed spear attempt at the puck to try to catch Silvis out of position. But it was snuffed out by Larry Smith's stick, and now up towards Michael Bunn. Offside is the call against Roanoke. The Rail Yard Dogs, no matter what happens tonight, will not be able to pass Knoxville for 5th place, but they can come a single point away from doing that with a little bit of help from Birmingham. Right now, Huntsville is the team that's really separating itself from the pack that they were in. They were one of the 4 middling teams for a while, but they have since been on quite the roll. The Mayhem on a delayed offside. Bunn tagging up. Now they're good to go. Jimmy Soper just took a run at Travis Armstrong, and another Harrison's Body Shop collision delivered by Mayhem's number 13, Jimmy Soper. We called him the one-man wrecking crew a little bit earlier in this period, and while that might be a slight hyperbole, it's not one by much. He's, without a doubt, thrown the hardest hits we've seen all season from anybody, probably the most frequent as well. And the offensive sticks aren't working. Sometimes that's what the team needs to get it going. And right now, folks, the Mayhem are starting to look like a team, like an offensively challenged team, quite frankly, which is bizarre considering the way they started the year. But last week, they scored 4 goals in 3 games. One of the linesmen blowing a whistle for a hand pass. Now that's an average of just 1.3 goals per game last week. And yes, last week was sort of an anomaly to the way that the season that has gone for the Mayhem, but it's been a recent state of affairs in which the Mayhem have struggled to score. Their goals for per game has dropped. They are now 7th in the league in that category, which is the first time all season we've seen them that low. They average 3.0 exactly goals per game, which is good for 7th in the SPHL. And as good as Ian Silvas has been for the Mayhem this season since he's been here, stopping goals from happening alone will not win many games. And the Mayhem attack has really got to get going here. So we've got an issue with the ice in that very same spot where we always have an issue, where there's that little hole, that divot by the Ortho Georgia on ice logo. And one of the building's operations managers now is coming down to take a look. And there's Jeff down there. He does a good job. And he's going to try to replace that divot with some shoveled ice and pat it down and make the surface solid again so that our players will be safe. So while Jeff sees to that, where we've got 7.5 minutes remaining in the second period, we're going to take a short pause here on SPHL Live and on YouTube. We're glad you decided to join us for our first game of 2019. We'll be back shortly, folks. Don't go anywhere. 2-0 Roanoke, your score here at the Macon Centreplex.
Don't forget, Mayhem fans, the Mayhem are having a different promotional night for every one of their home games in the 2018-19 season. With 90s Night, Superhero Night, Princess Night, Military Weekend, and so much more, there won't be a game all season where we won't have something exciting going on at the Macon Centreplex. Visit our website at MaconMayhem.com for more details.
So while we've got a moment here, I think it's high time we addressed all of these recent call-ups the Mayhem have experienced to the ECHL. Now, we talked about it earlier in the broadcast a little bit, but there are 7 players from the Mayhem's opening night roster that are no longer here because they impressed a lot of coaches up in the ECHL, the number 2 affiliated league of the NHL, and they're obviously doing something right because none of them have returned. The only one to return was Jake Fayella, and he was back for a game, scored in that game, and went right back up to the coast. They went back to Greenville the second time instead of Atlanta, but at any rate, nobody has permanently returned. And Jake Fayella, I spoke to the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, Jordan Coons, about him earlier this week. He told me Fayella's done exactly what he was brought in to do, which was be a steady defensive presence and fill a void that was left behind by injuries and call-ups. Trevor Owens, one of Greenville's top defensemen, has been out for a while, which has increased Fayella's role even more. So he's been strong, playing for former Mayhem head coach Kevin Kerr up with the Swamp Rabbits. And then his fellow defensemen, Brandon Fade and Zach Urban, have each made several appearances now with their ECHL teams. Brandon Fade switching between forward and defense a little bit. Mark Benetti, the broadcaster for the Rapid City Rush, told me that Brandon Fade was by far in the best shape out of anybody at the Rapid City Rush training camp this summer. He beat out everybody in the physical fitness challenge by a country mile, and he was one of the last players cut from the Rapid City Rush roster. Now, when he came down to Macon, he sort of stepped in pretty late. He was not in because he was at the Rapid City training camp. A lot of folks around here didn't know who he was, and he came on board late and stepped in as one of the Mayhem's top offensive defensemen, if not the top. He led the entire SPHL in scoring by a defenseman when he was called up, and to this day, he still leads all SPHL defensemen in plus-minus with a +16 rating a month later. So he was a huge loss for Macon, and he's been playing pretty well up in Rapid City as well, from what I was told by Mark Benetti, the longtime voice of the Rapid City Rush, who does an outstanding job up there in the Black Hills of South Dakota, not far from Mount Rushmore. Hence the name of the team, in case you were wondering. And then, of course, Zach Urban, who was a more recent call-up. Not a whole lot to report on him because he just went up right before New Year's. I think it was on New Year's Eve, actually, when he arrived. It might have been the day before that. But speaking with Matt Melsack, the broadcaster for the Toledo Walleye, he told me Zach Urban has just got a really long reach, helps them make good plays, defensive plays that transition to offense. And he told me that Urban has caught on to the way that the walleye play very quickly and has adjusted in short order. Speaking of the walleye, Sean Federow, who is a great defenseman here in Roanoke for Dan Bremner and the Rail Yard Dogs, he's up there as well. So Toledo very short on defensemen. The Grand Rapids Griffins, the top farm team for the Detroit Red Wings, have been plucking player after player off of Grand Rapids, which has led to this trickle-down effect that we're seeing. Both of these teams tonight falling victim to said trickle-down effect. Now Seth Ronsberg will send it to Bazovics, who will work it up towards the blue line, and Lilchuk kept into the zone. It goes down into the bottom of the right circle. Twisting with it, Mac Jansen, who puts it on his backhand and is harassed by Ronsberg. And while falling, a failed clearing attempt by Seamer is snuffed out, but he gets back onto his skates to join the rush. Chamello from the right side had his shot patted away by Tanner Creel. Now up to the point it goes. Pass into the slot, whacked out by Sumalitas, and down goes Bazovics. No penalty called. And Sumalitas will take over. He will shovel it over to Seth Ronsberg. Ronsberg's pass is well outside of the reach of Stathis, who stays on it. Feeds it too far outside of the reach of Seth Ronsberg, who goes in after it. Ronsberg delivers a big hit behind the net. Will then send it up towards the point, but it was broken up by Cody Dion like a steamroller, just goes right through the defense. Dion drives and shoots, fought off by Silvis, and a scramble in goal, picked up by Chamello now, who will turn his attention up ice. He filters one through. Here comes Sutliff going down to a knee, losing possession of the puck for the time being. Now flutters up near the red line. And Murray gave it away to Nick Minerva. Armstrong. Pass to Dion, didn't work out. Sutliff will dump it back in. Rimmed around by goaltender Creel out to neutral territory. Roanoke beginning to level the shots on goal category. It's now 14-11 in favor of Macon. It was 12-4 when this period started. Armstrong. Stick down there belonging to Roanoke's number 2. He gets it back and tries to clear it past Justin Levesque. Travis Armstrong pinned up by Levesque. Caleb Cameron in there poking and prying, but it's been flung out past the blue line, and Taylor Love will reorganize. Former Roanoke defenseman clears it in. Caleb Cameron went in awkwardly to the Coors Light dasher board right behind Roanoke's cage. Schwartz with an attempted self-pass is broken up by Jarrett Cup. Now Love back to Cup. Cup will begin to race out of his own zone with it. Created a couple of good chances back in period 1, doing just this by swiveling in, controlling the puck himself, taking it down the right wing. I'm not sure if he would agree with this or not, as Roanoke has just iced the puck. That icing call brought to you by Tropical Smoothie Cafe, as we're in our final quarter of the second period here. But Jarrett Cup reminds me a lot of Nick Leddy, who's now a defenseman at the New York Islanders and was with the Chicago Blackhawks for a long while. Quick, puck-moving defenseman with a nice shot, who is not afraid to jump in on the rush and lead attack single-handedly on his own. Really good skater, especially top-end speed. Once he reaches it, he's very hard to stop and slow down, and is great at entering the opposing zone, which is a rare talent for a defenseman, all while keeping possession of the puck. And maybe it's just the number. They wear the same number. Leddy wore the number 8 when he played in Chicago. Now he wears the number 2 with the New York Islanders, but I don't know. It's just been able to draw a few parallels between the two of them, and I'm sure that's a comparison he won't be too upset about. Jimmy Soper will take an offensive zone draw here. We had a small issue with one of the stanchions over there by the boards, that entrance in the high 5 tunnel, which is a break for Roanoke, as they had just iced the puck and got a chance for a breather because of it. So now they're essentially fresh. It's been flung over the stick of Caleb Cameron, and it bounces out to center. Ronsberg now for Bazovics. From the red line, Bazovics will send it in. Karam's off the creek dasher boards. Mayhem starting to get to that point now where they're probably gripping their sticks pretty tight due to frustration from not scoring very much recently. A lot of times when that happens, it's a snowball effect, and the more frustrated you get because of it, the harder it becomes. Soper will send it into the corner. Good keep and good work to lift the stick and keep it in the attacking zone by Jimmy Soper. Now Caleb Cameron is knocked off the puck by Wojtek Zemlichka. Michael Bunn's got it. He's tied up by Lilchuk. Slap shot by Bazovic sails over the crossbar. And the nines converge as Niemanen takes it away from Seth Ronsberg. It's guided out to center. Bunn will roll it back to Bazovic. The Riga, Latvia native sends it to Ronsberg, also a forward/defenseman. He shoots and scores! Seth Ronsberg with a brilliant snipe from the bottom of the right circle has just scored his first goal of the season. What a brilliant span of time for Seth Ronsberg. He delivered a body check in the right corner, one possession of the puck. It was a tough angle, and he just roofed it. He sniped it past Tanner Creel, who's been otherwise perfect tonight. Not the goal you would expect him to give up after the brilliant game he's had in net so far. But credit Seth Ronsberg. What a perfect shot by the Mayhem's number 9. And I'm sure that's got to feel great for him, getting that first one under his belt.
Making Mayhem goals, scored by number 9, Seth Ronsberg.
And now this building has some life.
His first of the season, assisted by number 36.
It's dumped in by Bauer.
Isabel.
Sumilidis will kick it up to his stick and turn with it.
Michael.
So Bazovic and Bunn were credited with assists. So Michael Bunn, for his fellow utility man, Seth Ronsberg, 2 players who've alternated between forward and D this season. As Silvis makes a save from the backhand shot. But Bunn in his Mayhem debut has notched an assist, so congratulations to him. That's quite an accomplishment. Jamello will send one ahead. John Seamer chasing it down in the left circle. He's got it on his backhand, shovels it on net, stopped by Creel. 2.5 to play in the second period. The Mayhem trailing the Rail Yard Dogs by a 2-1 score. Now it's dumped in by Jansen. Taylor Love. He will bounce it out to the neutral zone. It's intercepted and cleared out by Ben Bauer. Sutliff, delayed penalty upcoming here against Roanoke as Minerva was in an entanglement with Cody Dion, and Dion's got as it stands now, the game-winning goal tonight, and he's been known to be a little bit hot-headed at times. That might have been one of those instances because he and Nick Minerva were exchanging pleasantries in front of the player benches, and Dion's going to have a seat. Dion already with a couple of penalties tonight, and coming into this game, he led the entire league in penalty minutes. A big part of the reason that Roanoke's where they are in terms of penalties, one of the most penalized teams in the SPHL. Minerva given a penalty as well, offsetting roughing minors, I believe, will be the case. And Dion now with 77 PIMs this season. Minerva, one of the Mayhem's most penalized players as well, with 38 on the campaign. His third, only to Alexander Taulin and Stathis Sumilidis. So we're going to head back to the 4-on-4. Dion's night might be done, so this might be a 5 and a 2 against Dion. And just a 2 against Minerva, I'm not sure, but Colin Murray has taken Dion's place, and I'm surprised that was the player chosen to take Ronsberg's place. But, okay, so it will be a power play for Macon, so it makes a little bit more sense now. I thought it would be a 4-on-4. So roughing and something else was called against Dion. High sticking was also called against Dion, so he will be out until the third period. Jarrett Cup at the blue line. The Mayhem going back to the power play, brought to you by Wild Wing Cafe. This is their third opportunity on the man advantage tonight. They've not converted yet. Roanoke's cleared it out. The Rail Yard Dogs right now with the lowest penalty kill in the SPHL, coming into this game clicking at just 73%. Justin Levesque, the longtime Danville dasher in the FHL, is pestered by Travis Armstrong, but he got rid of the puck. It bounces over Levesque, kept in the zone at the blue line by Cup, and fed into the corner on the far side. Alexander Tallien for Soper, his fellow Canadian Levesque. Justin Levesque surveying his options. He will fire a wrist shot through lots of traffic, and it's snagged by Tanner Creel right in his chest. Buck 19 to play in the second, 2-1 Roanoke, your score with 1 minute and 9 seconds remaining in this Wild Wing Cafe power play. Caleb Cameron now in this other power play unit for Macon coming back out there. Cameron's got Sumalitas on his right, Chamello on his left, and Roanoke won the faceoff, but right to Creel, who had no choice but to take a whistle. Right now we're seeing John Seamer manning the left point position, which is something we haven't seen much of this season, but right now we're not seeing the Mayhem anywhere near their full strength and their full roster. It's almost a shell of its former self right now, and just so many Band-Aids and just players patched all over the place because of all the missing personnel. Bazovics, good keep at the blue line. He will send it to Cameron. Seamer's setting up shop over there in the far half wall. Bazovics with a wrister, might have grazed the side of the net. Bazovics twists it beautifully to Seamer, whose shot is stopped by Creel. Mac Jansen cleared it just barely past the blue line. Seamer couldn't quite stop it, but he slowed it down enough. And now Cameron is upended by Wojtek Zemlichka. And his countryman Stathis Sumalitas will send it behind the net, hoping for Chamello. It's kept in the zone by Seamer. And Chamello hacking for it, as is Lilchuk. Alexander Lilchuk will get it up to Jansen, who clears it in. Half minute remains in the second period. The Mayhem with time enough for one last rush on this Wild Wing Cafe power play. They've not converted on the man advantage yet tonight. Levesque slips right around Steve Millet, drives it down the right side. The Mayhem dropping to 0 for 3 on the man advantage now as Colin Murray's let out of the sin bin. It's been dumped down. Icing will be called against Roanoke with enough time for one last offensive zone faceoff and one last shot on goal. That icing call has been brought to you by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. 2-1 the score in favor of the Rail Yard Dogs, and the Mayhem will probably set up some sort of aggressive face-off option here and man up all of the left-handed shooters on the right side of the face-off man. And Levesque is the man chosen to take the draw. Looks like that's Derek Sutliff, I believe, in the shooting hole. Levesque will try to win it to him, and Sutliff will try to snap off a quick shot. So Eric Krasnichuk is going to skate over to the timekeeper and tell him to add maybe another second or two onto this clock, because it did run a little bit after the icing took place. So they're just going to make sure that they get another second and a half maybe on the clock for what we assume to be the last face-off of period 2. Mayhem trailing the Rail Yard Dogs 2-1. They entered the second period trailing by the same margin. And each team exchanged a strike. Cody Dion for Roanoke at 10:22, and Seth Ronsberg with his first goal of the season at 16:29 with a beautiful snipe. So they're having some difficulties with the scoreboard. They put 0.3 seconds, which is even less time than was on before. They switched it to 3.0. The puck drop will take place to the right of Tanner Creel. Levesque's got Cup and Sutliff behind him, ready to pull the trigger. Puck drops, and it's been speared away from Sutliff, who twists it wide of the net. That's done it for period 2. 2-1 your score in favor of the Rail Yard Dogs, and yes, it was not the same dominance that we saw from the Mayhem in the first period, but at least they're not in a bigger hole. They're in the same spot they were in heading into period 3, a 1-goal deficit that they're facing. Good news for you Mayhem fans tuned in out there. The third periods have been unquestionably the Mayhem's strongest periods. First and second periods for Macon have been identical essentially this season, and the third period has just been outstanding. Mayhem have scored more goals than any team in this league in the third period this season. They've also allowed fewer goals than any team in this league in the third period this season. So that combination is just unbelievable. And if history is true to itself, then the Rail Yard Dogs will have quite a bit of work to do fighting off a storm from the Mayhem in period 3. So again, 2-1 is your score. Roanoke with the advantage, and they played a lot better of a second period than they did in the first. Shots on goal, however, still in favor of Macon, 20-13. So we're going to step aside for now, folks. Somebody that I had the chance to catch up with before this game started. An interesting guest that we won't get the chance of having on the air very often. The managing editor over at the Sin Bin, Mike Campos. So I was a guest on his podcast about a month and a half ago or so, back in week 5 or 6, and he and Ryan Harding had myself and Chet Yoder, the voice of the Shreveport Mudbugs in the North American Hockey League, had us on as guests. Mike Campos, formerly with the Louisiana Ice Gators, the now defunct Louisiana Ice Gators, and at one point he even called a game in play-by-play, and now he's hosting a SPHL podcast here. So it was a great guest to have on hand, and we'll get the chance to hear from him momentarily, folks. Till then, keep it right here. You're listening to Macon Mayhem Hockey on the Mayhem Broadcast Network. We'll be back in a moment, folks. Powered by on. Well as on. Privilege of catching up with a very special guest here tonight for our second intermission interview. The managing editor over at the Sin Bin, Mike Campos. Mike, how you doing?
Oh, I'm tired. It's been a long drive in from Lafayette this morning. This day started at about 2:30 waking up and being on the road for 4 o'clock, and by the time I got here it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and had about enough time to get to the hotel and then get to the rink.
Well, we're glad you're feeling better, and you had the chance to come out here for the first time this season. I know you were feeling a little under the weather earlier this week, as have we all. But Mike, one thing I want to ask you about: what was it that sort of possessed you to want to come to the Macon Centreplex here and check out this weekend and this game in particular?
Well, I've never been to Macon before, so I wanted to go to a building that I've never been to, and the schedule was my friend, and here I am.
Here you are, and this is a good game to come to. I mean, it's been a really exciting back and forth series. Macon's took the first 4 games in the head-to-head season series, but have since fallen behind a little bit in the head-to-head matchups against Roanoke. The Rail Yard Dogs have taken each of the last 2. Have you, and I'm sure you've been able to cover these games and watch them pretty closely, what is it you've seen when these teams have gotten together?
You know, I think it really comes down to which team can get their forecheck on the best, who can establish their game over the other, be it whether it's being physical through the neutral zone or getting the pucks in deep on the forecheck. I mean, both of these teams play very well, very disciplined, very well systematic hockey. So it's really which team can pressure the other into making those kind of mistakes that you can capitalize on.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of that this weekend. It's a head-to-head matchup. It's the last time the Mayhem are hosting Roanoke in this building all season. And it's their first game home in a while. They're in the middle of a 3-game winless skid, the Mayhem are, and they're hoping to snap that against the team that ended their 2018 on a pretty sour note up in Roanoke. Mike, real talk now. I want to talk to you about some of the guests that you've had on your podcast, the Sin Bin. Who've been some of your, because you do one every single week, who have been some of your favorite guests that you've had on the air this season?
Well, gosh, I know Brian Gardner, who's in here from Roanoke. Oh, gosh, forgive me. And he's always been a good guy to have on the show. Really wanted to have River Thing on with him because I know those two are really good friends. But otherwise, we liked having Eli Gold from the Birmingham Bulls. He's a legend. Just the wealth of knowledge that he's had has been fantastic. Over the summer, we had James Spann right in the middle of hurricane season. He's a weather guy in Birmingham. He's a legend in his field in broadcast meteorology, and he's fantastic. As for coaches, we had Leo on the show last season for a while. He's always a great guest. Jean-Guy Trudel out of Peoria is always, he's one of those guys that's just hilarious. Very, a guy who speaks his mind constantly and totally unfiltered, and that's what makes him a great guest. Alex Von Coydel, he's a pretty decent guy. You know, we had him on this season, and he was an all right guy, I guess. Oh, wait, that's you.
Well, I think Chet Yoder probably stole the show on that one. But
well, that's because he's a casino dealer. I mean, you got casino stories. But yeah, Chet's a beauty. We go way back to our days in Lafayette. It was always good to talk to him again.
that's right, back to the Louisiana Ice Gators days. And if I'm not mistaken, we were on as guest the week after Jean-Guy Trudel that you guys had in week 5 or 6. But Mike, you mentioned Leo Thomas, and I think that's a kind of a good parlay into my next question to you as somebody who's covered the league a long time. He was an assistant last year and the year before that under Kevin Kerr, who's since moved on to the Greenville Swamp Rabbits of the ECHL. And Leo has just taken over, and everyone's really bought into the system here, and that's shown with where the Mayhem are at right now in the standings. Defensively, they've been the best team in the league all season. Was there any sort of wondering at all on your part and the folks over at the Sin Bin as to whether Leo would be able to replicate what Kevin did and his tenure of success while he was in Macon?
Absolutely. Once we knew that Kevin Kerr was going off to the ECHL, it was a given that Leo Thomas was going to be the next head coach. There didn't have to be an announcement. We knew it was going to happen because he was the natural fit for the organization. And we had no doubt that Leo was going to come in with his work ethic and with his dedication to his job, that he was going to be a fantastic coach in this league, and it's come true.
It certainly has. Right now, the Mayhem tied with the Peoria Rivermen for first place in the entire SPHL. It's been a weird. We talked about it a little bit on your podcast, probably about 5-6 weeks ago. At this point, you kind of mentioned how or it was either you or Ryan Harding, but I want to say it was you who mentioned the big distinction between third place and fourth place in this league. There was kind of a big drop off, and now it's almost formed into this situation where it's the 3 teams at the top, 4 in the middle, and 3 at the bottom, at least in terms of the points and the standings. As somebody who's covered the league sort of objectively, has it looked sort of like that's been indicative of the play of the team so far?
You know, oh gosh, that's I know with I really think there's a lot more parity in this league than it just comes out to being. I mean, right now, yes, you've got, Macon, Peoria, and Birmingham. They had fantastic starts to the season. Maybe they've gotten wins that they shouldn't have had, and they just kind of got those breaks. And I think that's where that extra layer in the standings kind of comes from. I mean, those are 3 excellent teams, and they're going to do well all season long. And, I think really of the entire league, Evansville is struggling, and they're going to struggle all season. And I feel really bad for them that they're having such a rough season. Pensacola, they look like they're kind of starting to finally get their act together along with Quad City. They've got a lot of ground to make up on that middle group of teams, like, with Roanoke and Huntsville and Knoxville. Those guys, they are, that middle part of the league. I think they're just going to kind of go at each other back and forth all season. They'll get their wins, they'll get their losses. So I think other than knowing that Evansville is going to probably wind up last in the standings, and with, I think Macon and Birmingham and Peoria, I think they're going to finish. I think they are your top 3. Just because they already have that cushion built in.
Right, and of course Huntsville they're starting to separate themselves from the middling pack there, and they've been on a nice little roll here, and Max Milasek, of course, just being named the SPHL Player of the Month, and they're going to be a team that's high on the Mayhem's radar going forward. But tonight and this weekend, the focus is all on the Rail Yard Dogs, and I guess that's as good of a leeway as any into my final question for you, Mike. What are your predictions for tonight's game? How's it going to shake out?
I'll tell you what, it's going to really come down to who can make the least mistakes, especially when you start looking into the second period. That's kind of been a weak spot for Macon this whole season. If they can get through that second period and win that period, I think they're going to wind up winning the game.
All right, appreciate your time, Mike, and enjoy the game.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Alex.
That's Mike Campos, the managing editor over at the Sin Bin. This has been your second intermission report. We'll be back in just a moment with your out-of-town scoreboard update and more right after this. Welcome back, folks. We hope you enjoyed that interview with the Sin Bin managing editor, Mike Campos, who's in the house tonight. His first ever trip to Macon. We're glad to have him here, and he's doing some really good reporting for us. You can follow him on Twitter. He's been covering this game very closely. His Twitter handle is @SinBinSPHL. For anyone tuned in who would like a shout out tonight, you can tweet at the Mayhem at Macon Mayhem. I'll see it in the notifications thread and be happy to give you a shout out before this game comes to an end. We hope you're enjoying your Friday night, folks. The Mayhem are playing the first of a home and home series. They'll turn right around tomorrow, tonight. They'll hit the road and head up to Roanoke to take on the Rail Yard Dogs in this home and home series. And right now, Roanoke is trying to tip the scales even further in their favor, which they've already done quite a bit over the last two matchups. They started the season 0-4-0 against the Mayhem, and they're now 2-4-0 and are just a period away from becoming 3-4-0 against Macon if they can hold on to their one-goal lead. Now, the one-goal lead was given to them by Cody Dion. Speaking of that, let's break down the second period for you. It was a new Rail Yard Dog squad that we saw in period two. Now, even though they came out of period one with the lead, they were clearly the inferior team in the first 20 minutes. The Mayhem tripled them in shots on goal, 12-4. Tanner Creel bailed them out way too many times. It was it was the Tanner Creel show in period one, and Ian Silvis couldn't keep Nate O'Brien's shot out. It was a really nice snipe by the Roanoke defenseman going coast to coast and just roofing one past Silvis. So Mayhem sort of undeservedly going into the second period trailing, and that might have deflated their tires a little bit because Roanoke came out of the gates a lot better in period two, and the Mayhem looking a little bit flat by comparison. So it was Roanoke's period up until 16:29 into the middle frame, in which a pretty special moment happened for Macon. Seth Ronsberg, who has been such a trooper for this team. He's not played anywhere near as much as he would like to because of injuries that have been nagging at him all season. He's only played about a third of the Mayhem's total games this season, even less, and he's had to switch back between forward and defense a lot. And he's just been patient with these injuries, and he's been great helping the team out in other ways with potential local sponsorships and helping almost serve as a liaison for the Mayhem and an ambassador with local businesses. And not only that, but engaging with fans and their kids. He's great. He's a great asset to the Macon Mayhem, and just as much off the ice as he is on the ice. But one thing that he wanted to get going was the on-ice area. He wanted to start contributing to the goals department, and he did that tonight with a beautiful snipe over the shoulder of Tanner Creel from the right circle. Seth Ronsberg just winning possession of the puck and roofing it over Creel from a tough angle. And the play that led up to it involved Michael Bunn, who's making his Mayhem debut this evening, his first game in the SPHL this season, and his first game not with the Carolina Thunderbirds since the 2015-16 campaign. So Michael Bunn getting a huge secondary assist on Ronsberg's snipe, and in his first game with Macon, he's got the apple. And then Kristaps Bazovic was given the primary assist, and he was the one, I believe, who dumped the puck into the zone. And it was a battle for possession. Ronsberg playing physical, able to win that scrap, take the puck at the bottom of the right circle and just rip it over the shoulder of Creel, which is the first mistake that the Roanoke netminder has made all night. So 2-1 is your score in favor of Roanoke. The Mayhem still with some work to do in period 3, and they can't rest on their laurels and just think, well, we've been dominant in the third period all season. There's no reason to think this won't be different. They've got to actually still go out there and do the work and can't just rely on the stats to do it for them. But there is certainly something to be said about how dominant Macon has been in periods 3 all season long. And it's got a lot to do, I think, with how well coached and how well conditioned they are. They just have not given up on games. They've not allowed a come from behind victory all season, and their dominant third periods has been a big part of the reason why. So 2-1 is your score in favor of Roanoke. We're going to take one last time out here on the Mayhem Broadcast Network. When we come back, we'll have a brief out-of-town scoreboard update for you as we prepare for period 3.
This season, the Mayhem are offering a great group package. Whether you're a school, a church, a company, or just a group of friends, give the Mayhem office a call and we'll set you up with an incredible group deal. From $13 tickets to free team hats to a unique experience upgrade of your choosing, the Mayhem have got you and your group covered. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to purchase your group tickets to a Mayhem game today. Need to raise some money for your organization? Contact the Mayhem front office and we'll be happy to partner up with your group to help you fundraise for a cause. You buy tickets from us at $10, you sell them for $15, and then you keep the remaining $5 per ticket sold for whatever cause you like. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to set up a fundraiser for your organization today. Partial season ticket plans are still available. With the Mayhem's home season halfway through, you can still purchase the quarter season plan or the half season plan through our website for as low as $105. With VIP parking, 10% off of merchandise, access to event pre-sales, and more, the benefits of becoming a partial season ticket holder are endless. Visit the Tickets tab on our website, maconmayhem.com, for more information. Don't forget, Mayhem fans, the Mayhem are having a different promotional night for every one of their home games in the 2018-19 season. With 90s Night, Superhero Night, Princess Night, Military Weekend, and so much more, there won't be a game all season where we won't have something exciting going on at the Macon Centreplex. Visit our website at maconmayhem.com for more details.
Welcome back, folks. Well, it's a third period away from what could be a very even head-to-head season series, or one which favors the Mayhem substantially. Right now, the Mayhem trailing the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs 2-1 in this game, but leading them 4-2 in the head-to-head season series. Best case scenario for Roanoke, at the end of this weekend, it's all knotted up at 4 games apiece. Macon will try to prevent that from happening. Quick out-of-town scoreboard update before we get started with third period action here at the Mac Shack. 1-0 Pensacola is the score in that game, which is the last one to start tonight at 7:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. Puck drop. Pensacola leads 1-0 over the Fayetteville Marksmen. Peoria and Huntsville all knotted up at 2 goals apiece halfway through regulation up at the Peoria Civic Center. Evansville, Quad City scoreless halfway through that game as well. Roanoke and Macon, of course, with a 2-1 lead. And then Birmingham and Knoxville all knotted up at 2 goals apiece up in eastern Tennessee. So every game is close right now, folks. This is going to be an out-of-town scoreboard update presented by Marriott, worth keeping a close eye on throughout the entire night. But the game that you're all here to see is back underway. Third period action now taking place at the Macon Centreplex. 20 minutes remain for the Mayhem to salvage a win in their first game of 2019. Seth Ronsberg, the lone Mayhem Mayhem goal scorer will reverse it up towards Chamello, and Stathis Sumalides making a break for it. Chamello has his stick lifted, and Stathis sends it along to Seamer, who's checked off balance from behind, tries to kick it up to his stick, but no luck. And now Bazovic will glove it down to the ice and play it with his stick. He head fakes and turns up ice with it. Will fling it in on net, stopped by Creel, who will take a whistle. Both teams have been held off the score sheet on power plays tonight. Both sides are 0 for 3. Errant puck drop in the face-off circle on the left side here. Folks, if you're interested in possibly coming out to a Mayhem game as a group this season, if you've got 10 or more people, we'd love to have you. Group tickets are on sale now. You can call the Mayhem office at 478-803-1592. If you come as a group, you'll get discounted tickets for $13 each. You'll also get free hats and an experience upgrade of your choosing. Defensive zone face-off win by Jeff Jones. And Mac Jansen will skitter it out to the neutral zone. Larry Smith taking over. Nick Minerva coughs it up. Here comes Carvalho on a 2-on-1 with Jones. He drops it off, gets it back, and sends it over. One pass too many. Jones couldn't get a handle on it. And play continues. The Mayhem dodging a bullet there. It's flown in by Nate O'Brien, halted by Ian Silvis behind his goal. Whacked around by Nick Minerva out to Alexander Tallien. Roanoke on a delayed offside. They're good to go now on the forecheck. Steve Millet is the first to enter the Mayhem end. Larry Smith will slap it out towards Levesque, who will redirect it into the zone. No icing here as Levesque just got a piece of it. Roanoke doing the same thing. No icing on the other end either. A minute and a half has expired in this third period of play. The Mayhem trailing 2-1. Tripping penalty forthcoming against Steve Millet and the Rail Yard Dogs as Silvis heads to the Macon bench. The Mayhem will be on a power play shortly. In the meantime, they get a sixth attacker out in the form of John Seamer, who replaces Ian Silvis. Here comes Bunn. Rink-wide pass lands flat on Soper's tape. He's got Seamer behind him, but centers it, tapped on goal by Cameron and stopped by Tanner Creel with the left pad. But the Mayhem will be going to the man advantage for the fourth time tonight. They've not yet converted, and Roanoke's penalty kill would suggest that the Mayhem are due for one now. As so the Mayhem will be going to their fourth power play of this game. Both teams have had 3 chances. Neither one of them have converted. This Mayhem power play is brought to you by Wild Wing Cafe. There was a huge check delivered by John Seamer at the other end on Zach Niemanen. 2 minutes into the third, 2-1 your score in favor of Roanoke. Stathis gets the pass on the rush. He centers for Cameron, goes off his skate, loose puck on the doorstep, cleared at the last second, and all the way down. Crisis averted for Roanoke. Bazovic takes over in front of Silvis. Kristaps Bazovic. He will fire, swallowed by Creel. Give a shout out to Dawn Silvis and the Silvis family. They're celebrating Ian's grandfather's birthday tonight, so happy birthday, Mr. Silvis, and thanks for tuning in and supporting Ian Silvis and the Mayhem this season. Caleb Cameron will take an offensive zone face-off against Jordan Carvalho in the left circle. He wins it cleanly. Seamer manning the left point for Bazovic, whose one-timer is tipped by Sumalides, yet stopped by Creel. Sent out to Bazovic, who keeps it in the zone nicely at the blue line. And looks like that should be a case of holding called against Roanoke, but they get away with it. It was Wojtek Zemlichka pinning Cameron to the half wall, not letting him move. The Mayhem's power play is now halfway through. Bazovic fakes right, goes left. Sutliff gives it over to Levesque, who mishandled it but left it nicely for Sutliff ultimately. And Sutliff will pivot his way down the right corner boards. Levesque will scoop it up and guide it on back to the line. It's Cup dishing it back. Levesque switches with Cup and pulls a wrister. Stopped. Rebound sent just wide of the post by inches and cleared past the blue line in front of the player bench as it slides. Half a minute remains here on this Mayhem power play brought to you by Wild Wing Cafe. Jarrett Cup turns his attention towards entering the Roanoke zone. It's redirected by Levesque. Bauer will send it over towards Armstrong. Given up to Zach Niemanen, who squeaks it past Jarrett Cup and all the way down. Eric Witzel. He spins with it. He's pickpocketed by Cup. Now it's fed up to Justin Levesque. Roanoke's returned to full strength as Steve Millet is let out of the box. Soper gets it from Levesque. Offside is the call against the Mayhem. 4 minutes have gone by in this third period. The Mayhem dropping a fourth straight power play tonight. One of the keys of tonight's game was generating power play opportunities. The Mayhem have done that, but they've not scored on them. John Seamer with a brilliant maneuver off the faceoff, fires upon it in the zone, and it's stopped by by Tanner Creel. When the Mayhem do not score a power play goal this season, they are 5-2-3. On home ice, however, they've managed a very strong record of 5-0-1 when not scoring a power play goal. John Seamer jumping the gun a little bit on the faceoff. He's going to have to switch with Stathis Sumulidis. A long-time SPHLer is going to get a chance at the draw here against the Roanoke captain, Steve Millet. Millet beat him on the draw. The Rail Yard Dogs, however, unable to clear it. Minerva kept it in the zone, but is deemed to be guilty of a hand pass. So it'll be Seamer's unit back out there again, this time for a neutral zone draw in front of the Roanoke bench. And the puck drops. It's blasted in by Nick Minerva. And the Mayhem's youngest player just got it in right off the face-off, forcing Creel to make a play on it. He falls down in his net and gets back onto his skates, but Sumulidis emerges with the puck on his stick, couldn't center it over for Seamer. Smith will send it down past Sumulidis. Out to the far corner. Jansen is met by Sumulidis, who got it down to Minerva. Nice pass. And the return bounces up towards Jansen, kept by Chimello. Led back to Seamer, whose shot never got all the way through. Turning with it, Sumulidis. His shot blocked right to Chimello. Down into the left corner he goes. O'Brien shoulders him off the puck. Sumulidis will take over inside of the trapezoid, sends it up to Minerva, whose shot is dealt with by Creel and is paddled out of play. And that flying puck is brought to you by Blues Painting and Home Repair. Leo Thomas will send back out Jimmy Soper and company with Cameron and Michael Bunn. Jimmy Soper's been a bit of a Rail Yard Dogs killer. He's scored 6 points in as many games against Roanoke this season, including 2 goals and 4 assists. And countless hits against them, even tonight. Soper will whack it down the half boards, and Lilchuk got it up to Witzel. Witzel clears it out in the direction of Schwartz, who will scoop it up. Jesse Schwartz spins it down around the end wall out to the far corner. Love swatting at it, trying to move it up the boards. And Witzel will jam it back the other direction. Eric Witzel is hit hard by Jimmy Soper. Soper continuing to throw his body around left and right all over the ice. It seems like particularly in that corner where he just loves to get physical and win battles for his team. Fresh fiver out there for Macon. Lichka's pass goes off of the skates of Colin Murray, who rims one around out to the far half wall. Cody Dion is met by a wave of white sweaters, and the Mayhem take over and will dump it in. Derek Sutliff, the man doing the honors, will drop it along for Alexander Tallien. The Crystal Lake, Illinois native had his pass go past the blue line and couldn't be kept by Ronsberg. To this moment, the Mayhem's only goal scorer. 13:40 to be played in period 3. Still lots of time, but the Mayhem really have to get going here. Levesque spirits his pass over towards Sutliff. Colin Murray doing some good back checking to prevent Sutliff from getting a great chance on Tanner Creel. Now big hit is thrown by Tallien in the near corner in the Roanoke zone. Silvis is out inside of the trapezoid to play one around the near half wall. Carvalho delivers it over to Jeff Jones in the far corner. Jones is knocked down by Ronsberg, who's battling for that loose puck, shoves him back down again. Ronsberg essentially telling him to stay put, as Levesque will fly one out, giving his team ample time to complete a line change. Carvalho will backhand it in. 12:50 to play in the third. 2-1 Roanoke. Larry Smith's got it behind Ian Silvis. He leaves it for John Seamer. Seamer's pass connects with Sumalitas, who's got a 3-on-2 developing. He drops it for the trailer Minerva, who will spin one off the backboards right to John Seamer at Karams. Seamer trying to turn the corner, Witzel fending him off. Sumalitas receives the pass and gave it away. Out of Zach Niemanen. Here's Chimello entering the Roanoke zone, losing possession. It's been hoisted down. Smith in a foot race with Dion. No icing here. Two sticks together, canceling out. Dion hoping it'll take a Roanoke bounce here. It does not. And Cameron will shovel it in towards the red line. Armstrong is checked by Jarrett Cupp. Seamer mishandled the puck, and a good reaction time to keep it in the zone by Murray. We'll see if the Rail Yard Dogs can capitalize on that. Larry Smith had Mile's stick well protected and well covered. Michael Bunn makes a nice breakout pass that lands on the tape for Cameron, who swivels into the zone and fires. And a chest save is made in goal by Tanner Creel. Now Jeff Jones try to split through. He drives right around Love and shovels it wide of the goal. Witzel is hit hard by Soper, then knocked to the ice. Cameron flings it over the blue line, whacked at by the glove of Bauer. No hand pass, and now Jansen will drive it down the right wing and shoot. His shot is stopped by Ian Silvis. We're going to take a timeout here, folks. The Mayhem will be going to their first the second media timeout of period 3. 2-1 Roanoke is your score, with 10:57 to go in the third period.
This season, the Mayhem are offering a great group package. Whether you're a school, a church, a company, or just a group of friends, give the Mayhem office a call and we'll set you up with an incredible group deal. From $13 tickets to free team hats to a unique experience upgrade of your choosing, the Mayhem have got you and your group covered. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to purchase your group tickets to a Mayhem game today. Need to raise some money for your organization? Contact the Mayhem front office and we'll be happy to partner up with your group to help you fundraise for a cause. You buy tickets from us at $10, you sell them for $15, and then you keep the remaining $5 per ticket sold for whatever cause you like. Call our office at 478-803-1592 to set up a fundraiser for your organization today.
Justin Levesque taking a defensive zone draw. Seth Ronsberg selling a high sticking penalty that's going to be against the other number 9, Zach Niemanen, right off the defensive face-off. Niemanen and the Rail Yard Dogs are given an offensive zone penalty, which is, ask just about any coach in any league. That's the most frustrating penalty that one's team can take because there's no immediate danger. And it's just really a needless penalty to take. Sometimes penalties can save goals, but when they're in the offensive zone, they don't really do anything for you. So Niemanen's going to take a seat, and the Mayhem back to the power play for the 5th time tonight. We'll see if the 5th time can be the time when they finally break the power play spell. Levesque will take another draw. Steve Miele's been great in the circle tonight for Dan Bremner and the Rail Yard Dogs, and he wins another one, but it's kept in the zone by a diving Sutliff, who put his body on the line to keep the puck in the attacking end. Tauline centers it. It's given back to Cup. Sutliff, he spins with it and shovels it down to Jimmy Soper. Soper along for Tauline. He couldn't control the puck. It's been cleared out past the neutral zone down into Macon territory. Sutliff is pursuing it now. Las Vegas native Derek Sutliff will leave it for Jarrett Cup. He connects with Tauline. Over to Soper. Soper delivers behind the net. Tauline's got it. He will deposit it back inside of the trapezoid. Levesque receives it from Soper. He will swing it up to the point. Jarrett Cup. Justin Levesque switches with his fellow Canadian. Soper's got it now. Up to Cup at the blue line out of Rossaw, Ontario. But Derek Sutliff, his pass is picked off by Witzel and cleared. We're past the halfway point of the 3rd. It's a 4-minute double minor called against Zach Niemanen, so there must have been blood on Seth Ronsberg's face from that high sticking infraction. Seymour centering it for Levesque, who redirected it through the 5-hole and wide of Tanner Creel's net. Kept in the zone by Tauline, who tries to spin it down the half wall. Worked out by Ben Bauer, by Bazovics, who will send it over to Caleb Cameron in front of the Roanoke bench. Bazovics tried to slap it into the zone. Instead, it flies way out of play. And that flying puck brought to you by Blues Painting and Home Repair. We're going to take another media timeout here. This, I believe, will actually be the 2nd of the 3rd period. So you've got a birthday party you're hoping to plan anytime soon, folks. The Macon Mayhem would love to have you. The Mayhem offer a wonderful birthday package presented by Tommy's Bakery and Cafe. That includes 12 tickets, a private birthday suite with a great view of the ice from the corner on ice level on the left side of your screen. The birthday package also includes treats from our sponsors, Tommy's Bakery and Cafe, as well as a visit from Mac the Mascot and a special present for the birthday child. Packages start at $250. Additional tickets can be bought for $12 a piece. For anyone interested in purchasing a birthday package this season, go ahead and call the Mayhem front office, 478-803-1592, and we'd be more than happy to set you up with our Tommy's Bakery and Cafe birthday suite. Tommy's also sponsors the Hat Trick Challenge, folks. If the Mayhem score 3 or more goals in a home game, everyone in this building will be a pretty happy camper with 6 free donut holes from Tommy's Bakery and Cafe. It's been cleared past Kristaps Bazovics all the way down. Silvis. Kristaps delivers to Cameron, flying down the wing on the left side. We'll roll it back to Michael Cimello, who will spin it up to the point now. Bazovics for Seymour. Tees up a slap shot, but dishes it off to Bazovics, who will feed it down, get the return from Cimello. Bazovics lets a wrist shot go through lots of traffic, punched aside by Creel. Seymour for Cameron, who tries to spin it in front, bounces awkwardly on net, but stopped by Creel. It might have gone off of a Roanoke defenseman there. The Mayhem still with plenty of time on this power play, 1:48 to go, because it's an extensive double minor called against Zach Niemanen for high sticking Seth Ronsberg. And you can see how short the Mayhem bench is, folks. There's really all season we have not seen so few players on the bench for Macon. With only 15 skaters dressed, that's the lowest the Mayhem have had all year for a game. So shifts have had to be pretty short, lest the fatigue take over. Offside is called against Macon. 8:17 to play in the 3rd, 2-1 Roanoke. That's been the score since the 16th minute of period 2. neutral zone face-off will be on the near side of the ice, opposite Roanoke's bench. Levesque wins the draw cleanly, and Sutliff will feed it over to Jarrett Cup. Cup up to Levesque. Was hoping Soper would be over there. He was not. And Cup will just start again from the beginning. He works his way in front of his own net and begins picking up speed through center. Gives it off to Levesque on his right. Levesque will drive into the corner on the far side. Will spin one around past Tallene up to Sutliff, who will give it over to Cup. He's got to get rid of it quickly and fires through traffic, stopped by Creel. Good job done by Jarrett Cup, the product of Curry College, getting that shot through all that traffic on net while under pressure from some aggressive Roanoke penalty killing. Got to give the PK of Roanoke some credit. They came into this game dead last in the league with a 73% rate on the penalty kill, but they have really silenced the Mayhem's power play tonight. Bazovics. Chamello stick handling in close quarters. He's watched on all sides by blue and gold sweaters. He's able to soccer it back up to the point, bobbled by Sumalitis. Offside is the call against the Mayhem. Sumalitis on his opposite point there. That's an example of why right-handed defensemen tend to play on the right side and left-handed defensemen tend to play on the left side, because on plays like that, it's significantly easier to keep plays in the attacking zone if you're playing on your strong side. And with all the injuries and call-ups, the Mayhem have had no choice but to shuffle things around and just make it work. Little things like that make such a difference. Seamer down the right wing side with Sumalitis breaking in on goal. Passes between him and Cameron. Bounces now to Chamello, who will spin it to Seamer. It's rescued by Sumalitis, who wins possession from Witzel. Bazovics gives it on over to Cameron. Bounced off his stick, gets it right back. 5 seconds to go on the power play. Bazovic secures it, feeds Seamer above the left circle, whose shot was a wild one, and it skitters back out to neutral territory. Bazovic spins it to Seamer. Seamer springs one along for Chamello, who pulls up and shoots, stopped by Creel. He's able to sprawl on the rebound with his glove and hang on to it. 6.5 to go in the third period. 2-1 Roanoke. If you've got a group, folks, and you're interested in fundraising through the Macon Mayhem, we'd love to sort you out with a fundraising opportunity as well. You buy your tickets from us for $10 a piece. You sell them for $15, and you keep the remaining $5 for whichever cause you like. To set up that fundraising, you can call the Mayhem office at 478-803-1592. Wrist shot is off the mark from Minerva. Twisted back in front by Levesque, and cleared out Steve Millet, the Roanoke captain, getting it out of the zone. Millet with more points against the Mayhem than anyone this season on this active Roanoke roster tonight. Levesque gave it over to Tallene, sends it on goal from the half wall on the far side. It's stopped by Creel. Tanner Creel has been brilliant in goal.
Mayhem fans, bring your ticket from tonight's game to any Kinetics Fitness location for a free personal training session. Check out Aaron in the lobby, who was out there beforehand. To a fitness challenge with free prizes, Kinetics Health Club will be offering a no enrollment fee special for everyone that signs up in the arena tonight.
Right now, the shots showing on the scoreboard are 30, which would mean that Creel's got at least 29 saves under his belt. No icing here as it's played by Larry Smith behind his own goal. The Mayhem only allowed 16 shots on net against Roanoke on Saturday. That's a season low for them and a franchise low at that. Tonight, they've not given up a lot of shots either, and they're called on an offside. It's almost been the opposite of what we saw earlier this season over the last couple of games. The Mayhem were outshot more than they outshot their opponents early on, and yet they were still dominating. And the past two nights, the past two games, they've been outshooting Roanoke pretty substantially, but they've not had a lead once. Cup. Love. Back to Cup on the return pass. He will diagonally angle it past Cameron and into the Roanoke zone. Jumping play is made desperately by O'Brien to try to clear it past the blue line. Couldn't quite do it. Love now retreating with it in his own zone, being pursued by Mac Jansen. Got it over to Jarrett Cupp, who will send one over to Caleb Cameron. Now Love again. 5:18 to play in the third. Love's pass is intercepted, and Jones will swivel his way across the blue line and drive it down the left side. Jones to the net is basically punched by Silvas there. Silvas was more concerned with the body than the puck. He's not had to face a lot of Roanoke shots in this third period. Roanoke has really just parked the bus and defended. It's cleared in. Bazovic's behind his net. Seamer fires it up to Nick Minerva, who tries to power through. The Mayhem on a delayed offside are now good to go. That was Ronsberg, rather, not Minerva. Zemlichka rolls it up the half wall. Eric Witzel under duress. Can't clear it. Fired back towards the net, but blocked by the sea of blue standing in front of Tanner Creel protecting him. And that's what we mean when we say parking the bus. There are just hardly any shooting lanes for the Mayhem to work with. Roanoke really buckling down and playing a very defensively responsible third period. Bazovic's 4:10 to go here in period 3. Niemanen storms into the zone, and Roanoke not even bothering to send a third forward in. The reinforcements are just hanging back. They're almost in sort of a 2-3 right now, maybe a 2-1-2. Levesque with a skillful soccer play to spring Sutliff down his off wing with the pass at center from his skates. Sutliff is then picked by Ben Bauer, allowing for Carvalho to march it forward. Here's Minerva, fires it to Sutliff. Tallinn, back to Minerva. Swivels his way over the blue line and guides it on over to Sutliff, whose shot nearly redirected by Minerva, who spins it over. Bounces back up to the blue line. Smith, Minerva, taps it to Sutliff, fires a slap shot, barely fought off by Creel. Not sure how he saw it, but he did. And it's Levesque scooting over to the point, bouncing it behind the net. O'Brien rims it around hard. It slides out to neutral territory. Minerva spins it out to the blue line. Justin Levesque is joined by Cameron on the zone entry. Levesque feeds it back to the point. Cupp fakes the slap shot, takes the wrist shot, never reached Creel. Cupp will pick it up in the corner on the left side. He will feed it over into the far half wall. Jansen is checked by Tallinn, leading to some friendly fire. Now Tallinn ends up on top of Jimmy Soper. And my goodness, that's going to be a penalty against Tallinn for that huge hit he delivered on Mac Jansen. 2:43 remain, and the Mayhem will be on the PK for most of it.
Mayhem fans, the game is not over yet.
If not all, we'll see if Tallinn is given an additional
Let's get up,
discipline
show your moves, and be the loudest dance
boarding
with your chance to
against Alexander Tallinn. So the player that was checked, folks, Mac Jansen, is not really looking like himself down there after he got back up. He was helped up, and he looks really wonky and uncomfortable. Well, we hope he'll be okay after that colossal hit delivered by Alexander Tallinn that might have caused an injury, which the Rail Yard Dogs can ill afford at this point. Neither can the Mayhem. Both of these teams very short-handed. Roanoke with 14 skaters. The Mayhem with 15 tonight. So in the final 2:40, the Mayhem are going to be killing off a Roanoke power play, which is the last thing they need. Tallinn in the Beyond Taboo Tattoo penalty box. Zemlichka fanning on a one-timer. Zach Niemanen. Zemlichka gives it over to Carvalho. Now it's Niemanen above the right circle, who fed it to the side of the net. Backhanded on net, stopped by Silvas from the far end of the goal line extended. If the Mayhem can kill off this Roanoke power play, Silvis will most likely make a beeline for the Macon bench. Best case scenario for the Mayhem would obviously be to draw a penalty themselves and to go onto a 5-on-4 power play by pulling Ian Silvis. As Carvalho will feed it up to Zach Neiman at the right point. Carvalho will get it back, right circle. He fed it off the side of the net. Stick lift by Larry Smith, but he couldn't clear past Zemlichka. Neiman's got to turn and hustle back. Sutliff's in hot pursuit of him. He's got to move it quickly and wheel behind his own net. He turns back. It's rattled around the boards and it bounces right in front. Terrible bounce for the Mayhem, and it led to a brilliant opportunity, but Roanoke could not score. It was Lil Chuck getting the point-blank chance on Ian Silvis. That one just bounced right off a stanchion directly in front of Ian Silvis. Sumilidis with a nifty steal of possession. He dispossessed 3 rail yard dogs, it looked like, and just eventually ran out of real estate. 1 minute remains in the third period. A quarter of that time will be spent with the Mayhem shorthanded. Cup trying to slip one through. Cody Dion takes over. From center ice, he will gain the zone. Dion lost possession. The puck is sent over the net after it redirected there. Turnaround shot by Witzel is stopped by the pads of Silvis, who looks right to the bench. He's going to skate there right now. Ian Silvis to the bench. The 6th attacker is Kristaps Bazovics. Seamer's shot is blocked by Ben Bauer. Seamer from the left corner trying to set one up for Soper. It's picked off by Dion and cleared all the way down. This will be far enough. Icing will be the call against Roanoke. 21.6 seconds remain. That icing call has been brought to you by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. And Leo Thomas will use his timeout here. At least, well, one could certainly rationalize that, but he may not. We'll see. Leo Thomas drawing something up right now, and there it is. So the clock has just been adjusted. 22.8 seconds remain in regulation. The Mayhem must score, or they will enter their longest winless drought in franchise history. What's been most frustrating about this little skid the Mayhem have been on has been not the way they've played, really, so much as the way that the games have shaken out. They've all been one-goal games. They've all been right there and close. Now, at the start of the year, the Mayhem were great in one-goal games, had a great record, and they still do. In one-goal games this season, the Mayhem are 6-2-3, with both of those regulation losses coming in the last week. So Justin Levesque, Caleb Cameron, Jimmy Soper, John Seamer, Kristaps Bazovics, and Seth Ronsberg are out there as the 6 attackers for Leo Thomas and the Mayhem. We'll see what plan Leo Thomas drew up on the Mayhem bench for this offensive zone faceoff. One last hope for the Mayhem as the crowd all comes to its feet. The puck drops. It's given back to the blue line from Seamer to Bazovics. Over to Ronsberg, above the right circle. Slaps it towards the net. Never reached the goal. It was blocked and picked up by Armstrong, who's got nothing but blue skies ahead of him as he skates it down casually on the right side, killing out what's left of this clock. He is slammed hard into the boards by Ronsberg. A penalty will be called, and that's going to do it. A fight breaks out in the corner. Armstrong against, it looks like, Ronsberg. Ronsberg is thrown down. With that shift in momentum, that Armstrong used to throw Ronsburg down to the ice. Seth Ronsburg having one heck of a night, folks. Despite the fact that the Mayhem will not win this game, barring a 4.8 second miracle here from a defensive zone draw. Seth Ronsburg can be happy with himself because he was just an assist away from the Gordie Howe hat trick tonight. And he hasn't been back. He hasn't been back for very long, playing at least. He's served, like I said earlier, as a great ambassador for the Mayhem on and off the ice. He's served as an assistant coach for one night. He's been a great sort of liaison between the team and its fans. He's done everything for the Mayhem this season. And now that includes scoring a goal and getting into a fight. So we'll see if he gets one of the 3 stars of tonight's game. So Cameron was actually penalized for boarding. And Ronsburg given the 5 for fighting in response. Right now the Mayhem have 5 skaters on the ice. I don't know if they're hoping that Krasnichuk won't notice or what, but Tallinn is ordered to go back onto the Mayhem bench. And Leo tested his luck. Defensive zone draw. The Mayhem have to hope for a miracle here. They win the face-off, and it's whipped down immediately, well wide of the net. That's going to do it. So the Mayhem now, on their longest losing skid in franchise history, have just dropped their 4th straight. And in all of those games, they were beaten by a single goal. So really, frustration has been a good way for it, a good word for it, the way that the Mayhem have been playing lately. The offense has not been what it was to start the season. Lots to work on in that department. But folks, this game, and I say this as objectively as possible, this game could have gone either way. And I think Roanoke realizes that they're pretty lucky to be coming away with a regulation win in a night like this, in which they were heavily outshot. They were nearly doubled in the shots on goal, 35-17 the final in that respect. And the first period was just basically Tanner Creel won that period. Tanner Creel just made all dozen saves. He was spectacular. He made a couple of desperation saves on the 4-on-4, and that led to a rush the other way by Nate O'Brien, the defenseman, to just march it right back down the ice and snipe one from the right circle. So that was, to me at least, that was the turning point in the entire game. It was a 2-goal sway eventually, essentially, I meant to say, and there were 2 chances, I believe, one for Cameron and one for Cup, if I'm not mistaken. Both of them denied by a sprawling Tanner Creel in desperation to make a couple of stops. And oftentimes a huge save will lead to momentum and lead to a scoring chance at the other end of the ice. That's exactly what it did. Creel's save left the puck right on the doorstep for Nate O'Brien to pick it up and skate right down the ice and down his off wing and bury it past Ian Silvis for the go-ahead goal. From that point on, the Mayhem were never tied in this game again. So 2-1 is the final here in Macon. It's been a rough few games here for the Mayhem, especially on the offensive side of things. A team that's averaged 3 goals per game or more all season has now just scored 5 in its last 4 tilts. So they've really got to get the offense humming. Leo Thomas understands that. There have been issues. Yes, the Mayhem without Dakota Kletcha, now without Sam Wilbur. They did not have Jake Trask tonight. Those are 3 of their top 5 scorers this season out. So yes, they're missing huge pieces, and that's a lot of firepower that I just rattled off just off the top of my head. But the remaining players have got to take this loss and begin learning from it and gelling from it and head up to Roanoke tomorrow night and try to exact their the last chance at revenge in a good long while. They were hoping tonight would be revenge, as they were beaten by this very same squad in the last game of the 2018 annual year, hoping that they could do exactly what Roanoke did to them to start 2019. That's not the case. 2-1 your final in favor of Roanoke, 35-17 your shots in favor of Macon. Hopefully the Mayhem can tomorrow convert some of those shots into goals, because for the last 2 games they've played against Roanoke, they have heavily outshot them. And we'll see what tomorrow has in store for us. The Mayhem traveling up to the Berglund Center in Roanoke, Virginia. Brian Gardner's got the call, the voice of the Rail Yard Dogs. As for the Mayhem, we'll be back next Friday and Saturday night to host the Birmingham Bulls. We hope to see you out here, folks. For information, you can visit the Mayhem website, maconmayhem.com, or give us a call at 478-803-1592. Till then, so long, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Friday night.